going to start the meeting, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. And we'll start with a moment of reflection. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to confirmation of the agenda. I do have one item to add under closed session, and that is a matter pertaining to labor relations. And I don't know, there's nothing else?
Nothing else.
Okay, so if I could have a motion to confirm the agenda as amended. I think that's Counselor Wilhelm up in the corner. I can't. Yep, Counselor Wilhelm and Counselor McKenzie, I believe that is. Okay, those in favor? Carried. Oh, yeah. And any disclosure of pecuniary interest you can do now or at any point in time through the meeting. So then I have consent agenda items 5.1 to 5.10 and approves the January 13th, 2022 council minutes. Is there anything anyone like to see pulled for discussion or whatever? Counselor McKenzie? No, that's not Counselor McKenzie. Counselor Duncan?
5.9 and 5.10, please.
Okay. And do we want to just move that down to council reports later, or we can deal with it right now, if that's all right too. Let's get it done with. Okay, anything else? Carry on, Matt. If I hold my head up, I can see your face better.
The 5.9, I just wondered maybe if we could have staff bring us back some information on what that would mean in regards to our road maintenance here in the county, as far as grass cutting and weed spraying. I understand we have an obligation to maintain our roadside ditches and weeds, but maybe we could, you know, maybe change our operations as somewhat to help the pollinators and benefit them as well as continuing with our obligations.
Okay, so will you want staff to bring back a report on that, which we will have staff do? I'm getting nods from the CAO. 5.10.
And I think we should be supporting AMO in this with the joint and several liability and looking at passing a motion with regard to the I think it was 7 points of direction AMO provided in that letter to the province. And I think that discussion needs to be first and foremost with the province again and not backburnered.
Okay, well, funny you should bring that up, because if no one did, I was going to. So I have an actual motion here that council directs staff to send a letter to the province to recognize that federally regulated railways are subject to the Drainage Act and should pay its costs as assessed under the act, and that railways should not hinder the progress of drain projects. And I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Wilhelm, second by Councillor McDermott. Any discussion on that? Those in favor? And that's carried. Perfect. Yep, Lauren?
Jim,
Yep.
Jim, I think the one I was bringing for was the joint and several liability.
Oh, I thought 5.10 was the drains.
It's both.
It's actually drains and joint and several liability.
Okay, all right.
It was drains was 5.10.
Right, and I can speak to that.
Okay, and Lori's going to speak to that.
Thank you. So through the warden, members of council, we did have that one flagged for joint and several liability, as well as the local drains. We had discussion amongst the local CAOs and for the county to be able to demonstrate its support on the drain piece. So that's great. We've got that resolution. On the joint and several liability, the Attorney General came out and has already responded to AMO's request for them to consider those changes. That came out yesterday. And so what the Attorney General is doing is they're convening a technical working group on joint and several liability. And that working group is anticipated to start the work in March to review those 7 recommendations from AMO. And AMO noted that it's a positive step forward and the discussions could lay the groundwork for future action. But if council still wants to pass a resolution to show their support, then we could be on record for that. So that would be
So we've
a
already
really
passed
easy
that one.
resolution.
Okay,
It'd be a separate resolution to just.
so I'm gonna make the same resolution or give you the same resolution,
For joint and several.
and it'll be for joint and several liability and not the Drainage Act. So do you want me to read that one out? As worded? I'm gonna council direct staff to send a letter to the province to recognize the federal that these, oh, gotta go back here. The call to action on joint and several liability. As under the, oh, I gotta reread this completely. Anyway, we will send a letter to the province on joint and several liability.
Yes.
And our concerns with regards to it. How's that? Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Kazenberg, second by Councillor Duncan. Questions on that?
Warden, the only concern I have is that I would like to see a date ending from that consultation and report. This has been brought up to the province, I don't know how many years ago, and there was absolutely nothing done. And to me, unless they put a timeline in and such like, there'll be an election and this will just get swept under the rug again. And like I say, I don't know how many years ago, maybe Laurie knows, that this was brought to the forefront and nothing was done with it.
Thank you. Through the warden, you are correct. I think I remember almost every municipal council I've worked for, we've always talked about joint and several liability. So it is going on a long time. And with AMO in their communication yesterday, they did recognize that it's unlikely that they would have a resolution to it before the next election. But that was their, so then they came out with the comments to say it could lay the groundwork for future action that could be taken. But you could add that to your resolution to say that there needs to be a timeline so municipalities can expect to see some relief from this. So we could add that to the letter. if
Okay,
you'd like.
and we will add that to the letter then as well. Is that okay?
Yeah.
With the mover and the seconder? Got a thumbs up? I got a nod, yes. Those in favor of that? Well, that's carried. So when we were on still 5.1, there was a third part to that, and I kind of forgot about it. About the Ministry of Health submission for municipal engagement in the Ontario health teams. How interested are you in sending that in? Councillor Kazenberg? You're saying yes?
Yes, Mr. Warden, thank you and good morning. I think that it will be very important for municipalities to have some representation on the Ontario health teams broadly and certainly locally as well.
Okay. So do I have a seconder for that? That would be Deputy Warden Agates. So we'll send a letter off to the Minister of Health expressing concern and interest in being part of the OHT engagement process. Okay. Those in favor of that? That's carried. Perfect. So we'll go back to the original motion. The council receives consent agenda items 5.1 to 5.8 and approves the January 13th, 2022 council minutes. Moved by, that would be Councillor McDermott and Councillor Duncan. Those in favor? And that would be carried. Okay, so now we're going to move on to public meetings and hearings and delegations. We have John Chapman from the Bus Association, and we'll get him up on the screen. Gosh, these masks are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Don't see it on. Not there yet?
Circle back.
Okay, he's not with us just yet. So we're gonna move on and we'll circle back to that. so that we can keep moving. And next will be 7.1 staff reports, and number 1 is the CAO.
Thank you through the warden. This is the annual report. It's our first corporate annual report for Perth County. The objective is to showcase the highlights and achievements across the organization. Achievements representing the progress towards the goals in the county's strategic plan. And that report serves as an important communications tool, providing a visually appealing look into the county's operations for the public, local stakeholders, and new staff. And following council's approval, the document will be shared on the county's website and social media.
Any questions for Lori on that? Don't see any hands going up. I got a motion that Perth County Council receives the Perth County 2021 annual report. Moved by Councillor Ait, second by Councillor Cullum. Excuse me, those in favor? Carried. Do we have our bus guy up there yet?
No.
Okay, he's not there. This thing's gonna make me cough. Okay, we're gonna move on. Perth County 7.1.2, the corporate communications update.
That's for Sarah.
That's Sarah? Yep. Morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Warden. I'm just going to share my screen here for a moment.
Yep.
All right, are you able to see the presentation?
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, Warden Aitchison and members of council. Before you is a summary report highlighting some of the corporate communications activities from 2021. As you know, the corporate communications role increased in capacity as of July 2021, and it's been a busy year working collaboratively with the CAO and across all divisions at Perth County. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into each item in detail, but I have prepared a brief presentation to show council some of the achievements from the past year. A quick overview of the corporate communications program. The communications program really exists with two key components, both internal and external aspects. This includes everything from support to staff and council members, as well as community engagement, public education, and media relations. On the external side, some examples of external communications include the county update, which is circulated in your local council's consent agendas. We also circulate this document internally to county staff. Also, we provide support to our local municipalities through public education toolkits, such as the Gypsy Moth social media toolkit, as well as when we launched our new single tier planning service delivery model. These toolkits include social media posts, graphics, and other accompanying resources to assist in public education. In terms of the website, I work quite closely with technology services, helping to manage website content, as well as providing training and technical support to staff. Communications also seeks out opportunities to grow and enhance website content, and I provide assistance to staff in developing new web pages and opportunities for community engagement and further development. You'll see on this slide several examples of communication support provided over the course of 2021. This includes the launch and ongoing support of the new paramedic services social media accounts, as well as support for events and other operational communications. This has been particularly important during COVID-19, as we have promoted Huron Perth Public Health vaccination clinics and other shifts to our operations during the ongoing pandemic. On this slide, you'll see some further examples of support in the form of template development and design work, such as the What Makes a Budget infographic, which you'll find on our website, as well as work on the budget binder and our newly launched courthouse history exhibit. Additionally, in 2021, the community engagement framework was developed, researched, and passed by council. Next, we have news releases, public notices, and statements. Communications acts as a liaison between the media and for staff members as well as council members. This includes preparing news releases and letters, but also remarks and briefing notes. This involves also publishing these items publicly and ensuring our website and social media are up to date with these items. On the internal communications side, these are some items that you may not have seen, but they help to improve the communications flow internally to our organization. We have on this slide some examples of events or other items that have happened throughout the course of 2021. We also host regular non-union staff meetings to help improve communications internally as well. So as you've seen from these examples and the examples in the report, it's been a busy year. So thank you so much for your time this morning to review these, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Questions for Sarah on her report? Not seeing any hands go up. It's a good report, lots of info. And the motion is Perth County Council receives the Perth County 2021 Corporate Communications Update Report. Moved by Councillor Kasenberg, second by Councillor McKenzie. Those in favor? That is carried. We get our bus guy back up there yet? Can we send him an email or something?
We have reached out.
Okay.
Okay.
We reached out. We'll just have to wait to see when we get back. Okay, next we're going to move on to 7.1.3 Corporate Strategic Plan Progress Report, and that would be Lori.
Thank you. Through the Warden Council, this is a 2021 Corporate Strategic Plan Progress Report. For an information on the actions as they relate to our strategic plan. Late this year and prior to the change of councils, we will bring a draft of this summary so that the current council may demonstrate its commitment to the public on making gains in service delivery improvements for our residents, businesses, and visitors during this upcoming year. And early in 2023, the newly elected council will undertake an update to the county's strategic plan to confirm the organization's direction for the next 4 years. So this is simply an information report. It outlines activities. It doesn't have every activity, but it's a fulsome summary as it relates to those actions that are outlined within our strategic goals. If council has ideas for improvement on the display of this information, I'm be very happy to hear that, and I know Sarah will be promoting this on our website and through social media as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Questions for Lori on the strategic plan report? Councillor Kasenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Actually, mostly a compliment. I think the format was excellent, and wanted to share with you that my kudos on pulling that together. I'm wondering if there is opportunity, as we move towards an election and the next council, to create some sort of dashboard that is available 24/7 on the web for councillors pertaining to this kind of data.
Yes. So through the Warden, yes, there are other samples that we could pull a dashboard together, and I'll work with Sarah in communications on producing something like that. It's not as what I've given you today is pretty wordy. It's a lot of information, and a dashboard would be much cleaner and convey the information a little easier for the public, for sure. So we'll work on that. That's a great idea.
Other comments or questions? Okay, I have a motion. Perth County Council receives the 2021 Corporate Strategic Plan Progress Report. Moved by Counselor Counselor Wilhelm, second by Counselor McDermott. Last chance for comments or questions. Those in favor? It's carried. Moving on. Okay, next, there's a bus guy up there yet?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We're gonna bring on John Chapman from the Bus Association, and we'll just flip back to that. Morning, John. Can you hear me? He's not responding. John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. We're ready for your presentation.
Sorry. Folks, what I'm wanting to propose to you today is that you move forward with the enabling regulations to allow the school bus operators of Perth County, and there are 5 of us, to move forward with stop arm cameras. I know 2 years ago, the provincial government did the enabling legislation to allow for the stop arm cameras to be mounted on school buses, and then it fell to the upper tier local simply because of the provincial offenses court and how they were collecting the money and what they were going to do with it. This is a very passionate issue for me, as this is Thursday and we have had 8 blow-bys this week where people have gone through with stop arms out, stop signs out, lights flashing, and in 2 instances, children on the road. Every year we do media presentations about, please stop for a school bus, and the PSWs that, the ads that we do on the media to promote bus safety and student safety. And frankly, none of that appears to be working. In fact, it appears to be getting worse. And so we need something with some teeth to get the general motoring public to stop and obey these rules before some little person is no longer with us. And I spoke with Alan Rothwell yesterday, and Alan is a strong supporter of this because he's lived that. He was very fortunate that his son wasn't killed, but he was hit. And Alan and Nancy are extremely supportive of this endeavor. It's not a big pitch, folks. That's it. That's all. We need to move forward.
Okay, thank you, John. Any questions for John on his presentation? Councillor Hurley.
No, good there. Thanks for sure. It's really interesting. You can follow this trend as technology and hands-free talking devices and all that. People are also engaged driving now. The world we live of technology, you can follow it hand in hand as that increased, the blow-bys increase. And it is a sucker. It is something. I see it in front of my place as well here down by Harmony. Yeah, it's interesting. It's unique. The cities run this. I wouldn't mind seeing, how many it looks. I'm suspecting they're going to be picking people off left, right, and center, the people who have implemented this.
I read an interesting stat. Sorry,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I read an interesting stat in our. We have a newsletter for all the school bus operators in Ontario through our association called School Bus Ontario. There's 18,000, give or take, school buses on the road every day in the province of Ontario. And as of yesterday, the average amount of blow-bys is 30,000 a day. So that's 2 per bus per day.
Holy.
The numbers are staggering. The numbers are absolutely staggering, folks. And the fact that no fatalities have resulted in this. And Councillor Hurley, you're not wrong. That the technology that the automakers are putting in the new cars, everybody thinks that they can, buy their groceries and do their nails and talk to their cousin and all these things while they're driving down Highway 23, which goes right by my front door. And the sad reality is they do that. And sitting up where we sit in a bus, you can look right down and see exactly what's going on. And it's it's scary. It's mind numbing. It's like, I don't understand what's wrong with people kind of stuff. Personally, a week and a half ago, I was supplying for one of my drivers, and I was doing a route that goes north of Atwood, north of the cheese factory. And I made a stop where two little girls were getting off. The one little girl got off the bus. Her mother was waiting for her. She did not have to cross the road. The other little girl, who is a granddaughter of one of my drivers, dropped something as she was about to head down the stairs. She bent over to pick it up, went down the stairs, was out on the road. Her older sibling was standing on the side of the road, waiting for her to cross 23 highway. And a black sedan went between the girl and my bus at highway speed. Made no intentions of stopping. And I mean, I had stopped long enough to let one child off. So this was not new. Like I was fully stopped and engaged in all of the safety equipment that my vehicles have. So I had some heart palpitations for quite some time, because that was extremely close. And it just has to end. And the only way it appears that it's going to end is either the driver or the owner of the vehicle, because that's what the camera equipment does, is send a ticket to the owner. They've got to be hit where it hurts them, and that's their wallet.
Okay, other questions or comments? Councilor Hurd again.
Yeah, no, great to you, Warden. Thanks again there, John. And another thing at the local levels, what we could do is, you put this in the tax bill, let them know that this is coming, because lots of times it's local folks too. It isn't always, we got to remember when the busy times are, lots of times those people are within 20 minutes of their home. So, we can't say it's far off people blowing everywhere. So you put it in the tax bill and let them know it's coming, and you're going to be getting pinched. No, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for allowing me to do the presentation. And the last little knowledge or nugget that I would leave with you is yesterday afternoon in the village of St. Mary's, or the town of St. Mary's, I have a bus does a stop at the south end near the Ford car dealership. Sorry, I don't know the name of the street. It's just the one that goes to Rannoch. The driver was letting some children off. A car went through the lights, and there was two OPP cruisers sitting immediately across the road in the Ford dealership's other parking lot, and this person ran the lights anyway with two cruisers sitting there.
Hopefully the cruisers chased them.
No, it's funny. They were visiting. They never even traced the vehicle down. Like, it was my driver was dumbfounded. He called me just almost hysterical, because he said, like, A, that the person ran the lights with the two cruisers there, and B, that neither of the OPP officers chased this person down. So
That's Queen Street West you were talking about.
Thank you.
Exactly where you were stopped. Okay, if there's no other questions, we're going to deal with this issue in a few minutes from now. I do believe there is fairly strong support. So we have our Director of Corporate Services, Annette Diamond, bringing back a report on this already. So we'll be dealing with it here in a little bit, but I'm only going to make one comment. I think Bob Wilhelm knows exactly what I'm going to say, because the Minister of Agriculture said it the other day, and we can put all the lights and cameras and everything on everything, and it is a help. I'm not going to say it's not, but the problem is you still can't fix stupid.
And there's no vaccine for it, Warden.
No, apparently.
You want to move it up in the agenda?
Now, if you want, with council's permission, we could maybe move Annette up and keep John on the screen here. And then we just would back down the strategic plan for consultation on natural heritage, natural environment, one spot. Is council agreeable to doing that? I got thumbs up. So, okay, so we can bring Annette up.
No, I'm speaking.
Oh, you're going to speak to that? Okay, Lori's actually speaking to that.
You want to do that motion to receive?
Oh, before we do that, I got a motion. Perth County received the delegation on item 7.4.1 from John Chapman, 8/36 School Bus Operators Association. Moved by Councillor Kellum, seconded by Councillor Kassenberg. Those in favor? Carried. Okay, so Laurie's going to do the report for Annette on the
Yes.
issue, so carry on, Lori.
Right, and I'll be brief. This particular report is an information report where staff are asking for council's approval to proceed to investigate implementing the administrative monetary penalty system, including an automated school bus arm camera system, stop arm camera system. The report is before you. There are no financial commitments at this time. Staff will research it. They'll report back this fall of this year. We will let Mr. Chapman know when it's coming back. And staff will keep council updated as the research progresses. So you're going to hear about it as we go along, not approve it today to research and not hear anything for 6 months. We'll let you know as it goes along. And if you have any questions today that relate to the legal framework, I will take those and I'll pass those along, and Ms. Diamond can respond to council in her capacity as legal counsel. That would be appropriate for her and to respond to any of those legal framework questions. And so the report is there. We are just looking for a resolution to receive it and to give staff the direction to proceed to do the research.
Counselor Wilhelm?
Two things. I would like a report back sooner than the fall.
Okay.
Hopefully, if we're going to move ahead with this, we could implement it for September. And secondly, I would also like to see if we could combine this. We've had numerous complaints from villages and urban areas that speeding and cameras in those areas might slow people down too. So and the problem I understood was that you needed bylaws, etc., for these cameras. Could we incorporate that into this also? And we may not necessarily have to move forward with that, but it would be an option. And I would like to see it sooner than later.
Okay, thank you. Through the warden, I will take that back to Ms. Diamond, and we'll reprioritize and see what we can do, and we will let you know when you can expect it then. And we'll look at the combining and the research.
Deputy Warden Daggett.
I presume the province will be the one that sets the dollar fine for this. Is there a way that we can encourage them to make sure it's a pretty hefty fine? I don't want it to come back and the fine's going to be $100. I'd like to see it at 500 or 1,000 or more.
Well, I think the fines, if they actually catch someone right now, the fines are fairly significant, are they not?
That's outlined in the report.
It's in the report there someplace.
Sorry, I missed that in the report, what the fines were.
Yes.
At least I thought I read that in there.
Oh, here, I'm between
400.
400 and 2,000. I did
It's
see
the
it.
6
Thanks.
demerit points. 6 demerit points is substantial.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's big on your insurance cost. Counselor Katzenberg, do you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Warden. John, thank you for drawing this to the attention of council. He and I had early conversations about this, and certainly I drew staff's attention to it. So I'm glad to see that this is moving forward. I think it's important. I agree with Councillor Wilhelm's premise that we should be looking at the red light camera, the opportunities, stop sign camera opportunities in this, but let's not dilute this. I think that we need due celerity, due speed on getting to the issue of the stop arm cameras. And I wholeheartedly endorse this notion that we get this wrapped up so that September school season has an answer, that we've done our part. I do know from my conversations with Ms. Diamond that this is a sort of area in flux. She, talked about some of that in her report and mentioned that other jurisdictions are trying to grapple with the actual implementation and even some of the policy platform here. And that there will be temptation to look to the others to see how they're doing it and sort of wait them out. But I encourage as much haste as possible on this one, and I'm totally supportive of our actions here to set up the administrative system. To Councillor Eit's point, I just wanted to mention that this camera-based approach, I don't believe puts demerit points against the infractions, just because the focus is on the vehicle and it's undetermined who is driving the vehicle at the time of the camera and clocking. So thank you, Mr. Warden. I just wanted to offer those comments.
John,
One last point I would leave with you folks, just kind of to support Councillor Wilhelm. You may or may not know that Ontario is the only jurisdiction in North America that currently does not have both red and amber overhead flashing lights on a school vehicle. We currently have all red.
12 mileage.
Bear with me one moment, folks. Cindy, I'm on the Zoom call. Just write it down and bring it into me. Could you please and thank you? What happened is, so this summer, we now have to change every school bus in the province to have amber as well as red lights on the top, which is a blessing. We as operators have been waiting for that for almost 15 years because the province has been not expedient. If we could tie the stop arm camera to that changeover as well, that would be just huge. So I am encouraged by the level of support you have, and if we could make it expedient enough to tie it into that changeover for this fall with the rest of the provincial fleet, that would be fabulous.
all right, okay, other comments or questions? Not hearing any, just a quick comment. I believe John McClellan, our Director of Public Works, brought us a report back a few months ago. We talked about cameras for speeding. And one of the issues was it doesn't only go to the car, not the driver. And the other point was it was very, very expensive for the speeding side of it to implement. And I know in Toronto, there was one driver got caught 153 times on one street. And he's still driving because it was on MSN one day, because the ticket goes to the car and they can't prove he was the driver. But they know he was the driver, they just can't prove it. So there are going to be some things to work around, but it's going to be a very good start to get the cameras on the buses.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have a motion. Perth County Council receives the admin monetary penalty system, an automated school bus stop arm camera system report, and Perth County Council directs staff to investigate implementing an administrative monetary penalty system, including an automated school bus stop arm camera system. Moved by Councillor Kazenberg, seconded by Deputy Warden Agates. Now you have time for questions and comments. Not seeing, Councillor McDermott?
Just one question on that administrative monetary penalty system. Do you have the right, though, to go to court?
That will be something our Director of Corporate Services will have to look into. We don't think we can answer that at this point in time.
I believe they
Yep.
will.
Nope, that's fine.
Probably will be able to, but I'm not gonna say that cut in stone.
Okay, nope, that's fine.
Other questions? Those in favor? It's carried. Thank you, John.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you well on the rest of your deliberations for your meeting. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Okay, we're gonna just backtrack a little spot here. And we'll go back to planning services, and I believe we have Sally on for that one. Nice to get that done and dealt with.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for Sally, I will say that we've got the flashing lights up on my road for the school bus zone now. And in the beginning, they didn't seem to slow down a whole lot. But as they've been there longer, I do see brake lights as they approach the flashing lights. So I think they've got from 100 down to maybe 70 instead of 80 down to 60 or whatever it is. Okay, so we have Sally.
Good morning, Warden. Thank you.
Morning, Sally.
Morning, everybody. I want to ensure, first of all, that you're seeing my slide
Yeah.
and that it's open in the correct format. So you're seeing the entire slide, not just the,
No, if you can open up in presentation mode, that'd be great. Right now, we're just seeing it as the PowerPoint.
that corrected it?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Good morning. I'm bringing you a report this morning about natural environment and the public engagement strategy. So you'll all be aware of what, that we're talking about this because we're doing a new official plan. And included in that plan is an update to mapping and policy on various subject matters, natural environment being one of them. And just having trouble getting my slide to advance. There we go. So the update to the natural heritage areas, though, has been concerning for some folks, and we, council and staff, we want to talk to people about it. We want to give them a chance to see what's being proposed and to have a chance to understand it, and then to give feedback and to talk about it and to engage in what that policy might look like in the new official plan. So that's why I'm bringing you a strategy today, is what would it look like to go out and talk to folks, and what might we achieve? And of course, our objective is to increase awareness out there, to clear up any misconceptions, but also like to really and truly get feedback on what people think about it. And if they have a chance to understand how it might affect them on their own property. And we can give examples of that and let people really sort of digest the information and then have a conversation with us about it. Then that's the objective. So one of the other things that we want to do is validate the mapping to some degree. And we can do that by the more people that look at it. So what have we heard so far? What are we talking about? What's the concerns? And I think they stem around a few fears and frustrations, perhaps that the policy that we end up with might be unfair or onerous. There is comments that I've received directly or indirectly too, secondhand, that that there's a perception that any new mapping might impose on normal farm practices. And we certainly want to take the opportunity to like dispel that particular misconception. I've also heard different folks say that, you know, the map doesn't seem to be right on my property. So we really want to give people a chance to like get into the map and have a look and then have a conversation about it. And the other thing, of course, is around notice. People need to know what's being proposed so that they can inform the process and have a say. So in hearing those things, the response then that is proposed through this strategy is meant to address not only the specific subject areas of concern, but also provide different methods for people to find out more, to engage in conversation. And sometimes, you know, in order to reach the full spectrum of folks out there that communicate in different ways or learn in different ways, we need to offer different methods. So sort of the foundation would be the interactive map viewer, where any member of the public could go and have a look at what the map is today, what is proposed to be, and that includes areas that would be added as identified natural areas and areas that would be removed that were either mapped before incorrectly or perhaps have changed over time, because we know natural systems are pretty dynamic. So the interactive map viewer, of course, is an online tool, but we have produced a book of maps to help sort of with speed be able to give somebody a copy of the map of their own property, for example, in a print form. So engaging a specific targeted engagement around folks who own property where the map is changing, or in particular where mapping would show an increased area of natural environment. Those folks through this strategy would receive a letter, and in the letter they would also receive a sort of an FAQ, a plain language written document that explains what's this about, what does it mean, examples of what you might, when it might impact you, and then what action would be required on your part or in the county's part in those instances. So The plain language FAQ also available online and in print as well. And then a forum online for people to comment. And this tool was particularly valuable back in 2021 and 2020 when we were looking at some policy changes around surplus farms, and people really took to this particular method of giving feedback. So I think it's one that we want to include here as well. One of the things that we always provide, but I think that we need to be more concerted about sort of resource allocation to this, is one-on-one. So folks receiving a letter or people learning about this online or from their friends and neighbors, they maybe want to have a conversation one-on-one. They want to ask questions. They want to feel comfortable to ask a question that they think is silly or makes them uncomfortable asking in a public forum. So we want to be able to do that. And certainly we want to make sure that all of our staff are trained, but I think what we'd like to see is sort of 2 or 3 of us that are particularly engaged in answering those calls on a regular basis. And we've tried to estimate the number, like what's the volume that we might see so that we can be properly staffed. And so we've been reaching out to folks in other municipalities who have been doing similar activities. And we've gauged the number of responses that we might get based on the experience of those other municipalities. And that's sort of what we have right now for, predicting the amount of resources that might be needed. One of the things that I'd really like to do, and I have some engagement already with one of the farm organizations in the county, is what would it look like to go out and be outside on a property, stake out, what does 30 meters from the woodlot look like? What does 50 meters look like? What does 100 meters look like? And then stake those out, flag them, have a conversation about a hypothetical example of someone who wanted to do some site alteration work or build a structure. And then go through, like, play out exactly what would happen, the conversation they would have, and getting a building permit or a planning application, and understand what it means, what it looks like to evaluate the impact of your project or your development on a natural feature, and have those conversations out loud in public so that people can see how it looks to be going through that experience, and then how the policy, it will help them sort of digest how the policy would work. And then we can get, much more, or we can get feedback from that with quite a bit more depth, and, hearing responses sort of in that workshop or in that field. And I think it would also help us highlight that this isn't a rural policy, that this is a policy across our county. And so, for instance, this is a conversation that we would have with someone proposing a subdivision as well, if there was natural features on or adjacent to the property that they're proposing to develop. So I think those field visits would be pretty interesting for people, and I think it would really help us engage the information in a different way. And I think a backup to that, should we struggle with pandemic related gathering restrictions, would be to try and recreate that experience, or try to share this similar information through a webinar. And we could do that by perhaps videoing sort of what the conversation in the field, and then presenting it in a webinar, and then having like a chat forum or question forum unfold from there. The final tool that I wanted to talk about is a map dispute process. So I think there is concern that, the map is incorrect. And I think, it's possible that it is in certain areas or on a specific site. So I think our objective always is to try and unfold a policy that, yes, it works for sort of the most people, but we want to also be extremely fair and try and figure out if there's a something that's been mapped that shouldn't be, then let's have a standard process for correcting the map, because the map itself is a screening tool essentially for us to know when to engage in the conversation with a landowner who wants to develop. And if it's incorrect, then we can certainly look at that at the time. But it would also help sometimes if there's a impasse in those conversations about, you know, this feature does appear to be here or whatever, and there's a dispute about that, then we do need someone with a scientific background and expertise in that areas to be able to help resolve the dispute and make any corrections to the map, you know, under a program or a set of parameters that is fair. So one of the things that we'll talk about later on this morning is the expense of that kind of a program or that kind of a dispute resolution process, and the cost of having that available to us during this time when we're trying to finish a draft of the official plan. And I think it's an example of another tool that's used to create a fair environment for people to give feedback, to learn about the natural environment feature on their property, and to have a resolution process that's unbiased. So those are the tools that I wanted to bring to you. Those are the things we've been trying to prepare for and evaluate so that we have a confidence that we can execute on those things. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. Is you asked some time ago for staff to figure out how to have a good consultation. And so that's what I believe I've offered today. Certainly open to ideas that perhaps you would like to offer as well. But what are our next steps? And I think one is to consider the cost of that program around the mapping and to have an ecologist on retainer. So we would talk about that a little bit later in the budgeting process this morning. An education session for council, actually, to look at not just these methods, but to go beyond that and talk about what is the policy that's proposed? How does it work? And what do the map changes look like? Can we dig into that a little bit more as a group before we proceed with a public consultation? So I think that is proposed for early in February. And the timing of that may change how you want to deal with the recommendation this morning. And I'm happy right now to answer any questions you have about these proposed methods. And I think that we've tried to cover a range of options here for the public that will be meaningful. And I'll leave it there for council discussion and questions.
Okay, if we could stop the screen share, then I could see the screen. Perfect. Councillor Hurlick.
Great there. Thank you, Sally. No, it's interesting. It's good that there's talk around this again. I gotta ask you, did you incorporate into this mapping the correct items? So we'll go back to 2019, August, September. We had the meetings at, it was in the evening actually, and where we digested through all the requirements and non-requirements. And we actually removed all the features that we don't have to do, including thicket meadows, connective features. Was that passed on to you by Mr. Swallow? Do you have that?
Yeah, I have that feedback. It wasn't a decision through resolution, I don't believe, that be removed from the environment system. And so if I'm correct about that, then the task before us is to have that conversation and to make a choice. And I would like to be able to do that with you once we've gathered sort of how the public feels about that too, and then have a conversation that could help this council make that decision. And I think the public consultation is one of the pieces that we need in order to give us, you know, a full story, a full picture to make that kind of a choice.
If I may continue, Warden, just quick. Yeah, no, there wasn't some engagement. Now it was a live council meeting. Again, we'll pick it up to the arena in Moncton. And again, it was around all different policies, but yeah, we had talked pretty solid there of removing those non-requirements and getting that off there. And then that takes us down to, yeah, the setbacks of bushes and stuff that our hands are tied, being the ecological zone we're in. it's interesting. I always struggle with these setbacks from bushes, and then all of a sudden you cross a magical line and they carve out bushes and make $1 million cottages, and none of this applies up in cottage country. It's kind of interesting, but I guess that's the world we live. But we did talk though about the connected features and getting that off, you know, anything that is non-mandatory. So there was great engagement for a few hours solid in August in particular, I believe it was at the courthouse. So in the council chambers, I just want to point that out. So, you know, that would cut down drastically on how much we spend on letters going out if we go back to where council had these lengthy talks on what needs to be removed. So if you have that information, we should probably engage in that again as council, because it'll save us drastic amounts. It'll just cut down on the time and cost of who gets letters and who don't. So no, thank you.
Other comments or questions? I believe Sally is correct when she says there was no actual resolutions passed that eliminated some of the things that were discussed. I believe it was in August. Might have been September. That was 2019, I believe it was. Met at the courthouse. I can't remember the exact date, doesn't really matter. But anyway, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have a session with council. And we can go over this again, and I believe that's next Thursday. Or no, not next Thursday, 2 Thursdays.
No, no.
10th. It's the 10th, right?
February 10th at 1.
So that's gonna be kind of we're gonna go over this thing again, see what's there, see what's not, see what you wanna see if you can eliminate officially. But it's been so long since we actually discussed this thing, I thought it was time for an update and a review. Anyway, oh, I gotta love this mask. I have a motion. Perth County Council receives a strategic for public consultation, a strategy for public consultation on the national environment update for the new official plan in Perth County report. So we're just receiving Sally's report here this morning. Moved by, did I see Councilor Wright's hand go up? Seconded by, I think Councilor Wilhelm's up there. Last chance for questions. Those in favor? That's carried. Okay, so we'll get together on the 10th and we'll have some wholesome discussions on the natural environment plan. Okay, moving on. PC Connect update. I am so dry. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Warden Aitchison.
Time for your report.
Amazing. Just very short and sweet. My standard PC Connect monthly update report is before you all this morning, and I'll just leave it at that and accept any questions that you may have in regards to PC Connect.
Thanks, Maggie. Any questions or comments for Maggie on her report? She has dealt with a couple challenges in the last month and done a good job of it. So between the lack of a driver and the buses getting pulled and people getting stranded and a couple different things, but they were dealt with, and I think everybody's happy. So if I don't have any questions, I have a motion. Perth County Council receives the PC Connect / December update report. Moved by Councilor Kellum, seconded by Councilor McDermott. Those in favor? That's carried. And just before you go, Maggie, I know there was some questions asked at Roma the other day about more funding for the transportation systems, and they were, because of the challenges, they're thinking about it, but there was definitely no guarantees from what I gathered. Anyway, we're going to move on. Thank you, Maggie.
Great, thank you.
Corporate services, and we've already dealt with the admin monetary penalty system. So we're going to go down to legal corporate services update. And Lori's going to do that.
Thank you. Through the warden, the legal corporate services update is simply an information report on the activities in those 5 divisions, and it's for the information of council.
Comments or questions for Lori on that. Annette had a doctor's appointment, so she might be with us when we get into the closed session. Okay, I have a motion. Perth County Council receives the Legal Corporate Services December update report. Moved by Counselor Kazenberg, seconded by Counselor Wilhelm. Those in favor? It's carried. Moving on. Regulation 284/09 impact report for 2022. And that is Corey. And we'll get Corey. Oh, there's Corey coming up. Morning, Corey.
Good morning.
We're ready for your report.
For sure. So this report before you basically is a report when municipalities brought in amortization for assets, particularly, and also the relation to post-employment benefits, as well as the dealings with the liability of landfills. It created a discrepancy in how things are reported financially and how we budget. So overall, basically, is that really a reserve to a transfer and money coming from a transfer of a reserve, and not particular a case of a financial income or a financial expense under the rules of the Public Sector Accounting Board. So the report is here, and essentially within the report, the budget that we'll be discussing in draft is indicating that the net municipal position based on this budget, even though it's a balanced budget, is an increase of just over $1 million. So if there's any questions in relation to the content of the report, I'll be happy to answer it.
Thank you, Corey. Questions for Corey on his report? Okay, so I have a motion. Perth County Council receives the O.Reg 284-09 impact for 2022 report, and Perth County Council approves the excluding of expenses from the 2022 budget as required by Ontario Regulation 284/09 passed under the Municipal Act 2001. Moved by Councillor Wilhelm, second by Councillor McDermott. Those in favor? That's carried. Moving on, Public Works. And I believe we're going to have Bill Wilson do that. Morning, Bill.
Morning, Warden and Council.
We're ready for your report.
Sure, thank you. This report here is just an information report for Council to update you on the 2022 plow truck replacements. Through some previous reports, we received direction to sole source the purchase or procurement of the cabin chassis component of this. We were able to deal with a vendor, that being Highway Western Star, and we had signed a purchase agreement for a cabin chassis that meets our specifications and our needs, and that price is $191,000 excluding HST. And then with that, we also included additional 7-year warranty package covering the major components on that cabin chassis. And also included in the report is the results of the plow equipment that will be procured through Viking Surveys. Under the financial implications section of the report there, you will see where we ended up in relation to the budget. This expense or this purchase is about 12% more than what we had originally budgeted earlier on in the year. We revised the budget, which is included under the capital program, and this purchase is within that budget as well. So I don't think I have much more to add to that. Originally, as you'll be aware, there were 2 other municipalities involved with us, being West Perth and Perth East, when we originally tendered for the cabin chassis, and they, to my understanding, have also been able to work with this vendor to meet their requirements as well. So if there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Bill. Questions for Bill on his report? Don't think I see hands going up. Okay, I have a motion that Perth County Council receives the 2022 plow truck replacement report for information. Moved by Councillor Wilhelm, second by Deputy Warden Haggis. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we are going to take a 5-minute break, just so I can stand. And we're going to resume in no more than 5 minutes. What time is it now?
10:06.
10:06. I'm going to say 10:12. We're coming back. And we'll move into operating budget.
We're good, we're live, and we're unmuted.
We're good? Yep. Perfect. We're going to reconvene. And we're going to get into the operating budget. That starts with tab 3. I see a couple counselors there haven't got their faces back up on the screen. We're getting a little further along. So just before we start doing the operating, I would ask that as we go through all the operating budgets, you're certainly welcome to ask questions. That's what I'll expect. If you want to delete something, we can discuss that. And I am guessing we're going to have a couple requests for additions, like I'm pretty sure we are. I would ask that we keep those to the end, because they may or may not take more time. So I'd like to get through just the basics of the operating budget. And if we want to do some additions, we can discuss those at the end. Or we may need more information back. And we're going to start off with Corey. And just so you know, we're going to stick with the operating budget till around 12. Then we're going to move back into the closed session, or go into closed session, because we're hoping to wrap this up by 12:30 or so. These masks are going to drive me crazy. Okay, so Corey, I think I saw you up there once, did I not?
Yep, top left.
There he is, top. Okay, Corey, take it away.
Thanks, Warden Aitchison. The budget binders that you have in front of you, as well as online, indicated tab 3 would be our start, but let's roll back to tab 1. And I just want to kind of go back to the overall budget summary. Basically, I just want to indicate to council the benefit of multi-year budgeting. So if you look at that indication, it's indicating that 2022 is a 5.87%. But also on this is saying that in 2023, we're looking at a 6.29%. And just to put some context into that 6.29, we are aware of the health unit, the provincial structure being shifted from a 75-25 split to a 70-30 split. That 6.29 takes in consideration of that, because we've been indicated that they've received some mitigation money into 2022, but they don't know if that's going to continue on. So 2023 is now based on a municipal contribution of 30% to the public health units, and going into 2024 as well. But when we look at a multi-year budget, and you have to consider this when you guys look at individual budgets and what is within those budgets. If you're looking at to try to reduce levy and an ongoing basis, you got to look at costs that you can cut permanently. Because if a cost is a cut for 1 year, it will come back and be part of the levy for the next year. So if you decide to cut $171,000 out of 2022's budget, and it's only a one-time cut, it will be a 1% add to the 2023 budget. So that's just, I just wanted to kind of allude to that within the overall multi-year budgeting for everybody's education. And if we can go now back into tab 3 of the binder. And basically the first item in that tab 3 binder is just a change between 2021 budget to 2022 budget, and where the impacts to the levy are indicated. So I've kind of broken that down in the overview that was presented to the council a couple of weeks ago, but it overall shows where the 5.43% is broken down in the operations, and how we've got to 5.87 with an additional 0.44% from the capital levy. The next item within there is just, it's the operating budget only, and looking at it on a 3-year basis, a multi-year type of format, looking at 2022 to 2024. As everybody's aware, if we follow in the order, it's OMPF reductions. This is a depiction of the local and upper tier OMPF money. Within this slide here, you'll note that 2021, we received 1.3 million in transition. I see an error in the, and then we're only receiving about $1 million in transition money for 2022. The majority of that is all upper tier money, like 867,000 of that 987 is at the county level. To note as well, you notice that North Perth and Perth East are out of transition. They're actually seeing more in OMPF. Perth South will be the last one to get out of the transition, but West Perth should be out of transition come 2023. So that is in a nutshell tab 3. If there's any questions particular to the tab, I'll try to answer them right now.
Questions for Corey? Looks like you're getting off easy.
All right, well, I'm gonna continue on then. In tab 4, it's council's budget is number 1. Overall, I don't have a slide deck for this presentation. Everybody else has nice slide decks on their presentation. This is pretty simple budget. It has minor increases, basically increase the COLA for meetings and honorariums of 1.46%, and no other major increases within this budget. So if there's any questions on this particular budget, I'll be happy to answer.
Questions? Don't see any, just a comment. I see we have the county banquet still in there. That might be a no-go again, you never know. Anyway, there's a bit of a savings, but we'll deal with that in the fall or summer, late summer. Okay, let's move on.
The next tab is grants. So grants process, we closed grants in October. What is in front of you is a grant application related to the North Perth Senior Center. It's similar to the previous year's grants that they've received in the past. And the only other item that's within here is the tree planting program that we have. The $15,000 then gets distributed to the local municipalities to be able to provide a program of tree planting within Perth County. So if there's any questions with relation to grants, I'll try to answer them.
Questions on the grants, Councillor Wilhelm?
Yeah, I just wonder if we shouldn't be looking at increasing the tree planting program. It's something we say we want to see help reduce climate change, but we're still leaving it at $15,000. And I noticed that in John's budget that they're planning on cutting down quite a few trees, and the trees are getting older and need to be cut down. But we're, as a county, is doing nothing to my knowledge of replanting trees, and I think we should look at encouraging more tree planting, and maybe that's a way with increasing the tree planting to the lower tiers.
Councillor Hurlick?
I know I'll just build in there as well. To add it to that, there is a couple of private organizations that are involved with tree planting. Mr. Jackson there of Perth South will be able to maybe bring some information in how far along and how much they're doing. And that's something we could recognize here, and that would maybe help. But I know they do quite a bit. Anyways, thanks.
Actually, I believe Tony Jackson now lives in West Perth, just on the boundary. Anyway, close though. He just moved here not that long ago. Other comments on the grants? Thoughts on the tree planting? Corey's got his hand up.
Just to put it in perspective financially, a $5,000 increase is a 0.03% increase to the levy. So if it's $10,000, you're looking at 0.06 increase to the levy. Just put that in perspective.
This was an easy one to deal with. Council's thoughts on maybe adding 10,000 to that tree planting? Got a thumbs up in one spot. Another thumbs up. We've got a bunch of heads nodding yes. You want a resolution for that? Resolution to bump the tree planting from 15 to 25,000. Councillor Wilhelm, Councillor Duncan. Those in favor? That's carried. So there, you can add that on. Anything else in grants? No, we're gonna move on
Nothing
to
for
shared
myself.
services. What's that, Corey?
Nothing for myself. No.
Okay, well, let's move on to shared services.
Well, I guess shared services might be before non-departmental. Is that what everybody's seeing in the binder?
Well, that's just the next thing in my binder. Like, we can go around, move around, but
Non-departmental.
oh. How did you
Is
go with
that, I'm just getting consensus. I can talk about shared services first, then go back to non-departmental.
Oh,
Are we missing
yeah, no, I
non-departmental?
just, my page stuck together. Sorry.
Okay, so just quick, I know Councillor, I usually ask the question in relation to the item within the projected actuals and the budget. Projected actuals includes taxation revenue, operational taxation revenue that we received during the year. For the purpose of budgeting, we eliminate that because that becomes the balancing item in the overall this part of the binder in non-departmental. I'll direct you to the item on OMPF funding. We're losing $153,000 in OMPF funding this year. I provided a mitigating item related to that reduction. And as you see in the transfer from the reserve levy stabilization, you'll see a $211,800 addition revenue from the levy stabilization reserve to combat that. And we've done that in 2021. So that is, and it has been included in 2023 onward as well. To note as well, this is where we house the community transportation project. Your item special projects is all the community transportation with corresponding revenues to offset those costs. So for example, the item related to provincial grants conditional is strictly related to the community transportation project. In this as well, we have operational reserves that earn interest. The interest is here's the revenue item, but we put those into those operational reserves. The other big item within this budget is the cost of MPAC to the municipality. You'll notice that it's lowered last year because we had a forecasted amount last year of an increase, but they held the line. They held the line again as well. So we brought the amount down to about $16,000 to align with the cost of the program to Perth County for 2022. In here as well, you'll see supplemental tax revenues as well as supplemental tax write-offs. If there's any questions in relation to this, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions for Corey on that? Not seeing any hands. So what happens when you go through your budget binder when you're reading? Pages stick together. Okay, no questions there. Now we'll move on to shared services.
Okay, shared services, and this item here in relation to the cost share programs, as I alluded before in the discussion related to multi-year budgeting, let's look at the line in relation to the Huron Perth Health Unit. We are holding the line on this year's budget as they are receiving additional money, and the transition between 25 to 30 will not occur until 2023. The item has been discussed, actually Councillor Wilhelm brought it up last year, is that we actually had money that we put into a reserve to help that. That money is being utilized in 2023 and 2024 to massage and kind of smooth out that increase over the next 2 years. You'll notice that our component of that is closer to the 1.3 mark, but that comes in 2023. But with the money that the reserve has in it, will smooth it in 2023, so we're not hit as big as if we had to put on a $1.3 million impact next year. So the smoothing effect is being utilizing those reserves to offset that. If there's any other questions in relation to these items, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, questions for Corey on shared services? Councillor Kasenberg?
Just quickly, Corey, just to make sure I understand, the smoothing program that you've identified for the health unit, is that just a 2-year implementation and then we hit the full impact on the county budget?
Great question, Councillor Kasenberg. Through the warden, yes, that is the impact. It's a 2-year period where 2024 amount is the full amount based on our weighted assessment of the program to come up with the 70-30 split as indicated by the province, and they just haven't implemented it yet.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Councillor Wright?
Crystal ball me, Corey, when do you think it goes to 65-35 and 60-40? 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road? Because we know it's coming. If we don't know it's coming, we're not paying attention to the downloads. But nothing out there to indicate. This is just the first step. Okay.
Through the warden to Councillor Wright, there is no indication of those changes. I'd hate to say it, I don't think the Conservative Party would be looking at that type of item potentially, and I don't know if any other party with an election coming up in June. I definitely don't know if that will be the case. I hate to say it, if another party does come in, they could leave it at the 75-25 split that is currently being implemented.
Other questions or comments? Just a quick comment. It's good figures. that's what the cost is. There's not much you're gonna do about it. But I remember in the spring of 2020, Councillor Wilhelm and myself and Matt Gilpin were dragged down to a meeting in Kitchener with regards to the future of the health units and actually EMS service. And I can't remember if Councilor Kaisenberg was there or not. I think, yeah, you were. But that's all been on hold since that day of discussion. So we honestly have no idea what they're thinking or where they're going, I don't think. Further to Doug, Councilor Wright's comment there. Okay, if there's no more questions there, we're moving on.
Sounds good. The last item within this tab is just our general insurance liability. This is the increase to our general insurance from the 2021 program, and it's sitting about 2.8%. Just to highlight is that you did see a report that showed a lot higher percentage, but those insurance costs are embedded within fleet and facilities, and not particularly in the general insurance as we distribute this to the other programs. If there are any other questions, I'll try to answer them.
Questions on insurance for Corey? Don't see any. Time to move on.
Okay, now this is the exciting part, because now we get into the department managers or directors, divisional operational budgets. And they do have slide presentations as we go through each individual tabs. So in tab 5 is the office of the CAO. And to that, I'll turn it over to Lori Wolf.
Thank you.
I think we're trying to get some slides up on the screen, so.
Okay, thank you. And through the warden, 2 members of council, this is a pretty standard budget, Office of the CAO. It's a statutory position in the Municipal Act. And the budget consists of the resources for the CAO as well as the communications officer on a full-time basis. And our 2021 accomplishments are outlined there. You saw earlier in the meeting with the annual report as well as the strategic plan report. They are numerous across the corporation. There's a number of accomplishments that I would be more involved in than others. So there's a few up on the board there. And then for 2022, opportunities and challenges, ongoing COVID pandemic continues to challenge the operations for us to be nimble and adapt to changing circumstances for sure, as that would impact all local governments. And we have multiple municipal corporate projects that will involve physical staff movements as we work along in our facilities renewal program. And maybe a challenge, but also presents as an opportunity. Certainly the courthouse campus project. We have fantastic facility projects on the go. When I think of, the courthouse being built in 1887 and now in 2022, we're moving and taking action on looking to install a modern elevator and an accessible public washroom in this magnificent building. So it's really going to open it up for the whole community and visitors in terms of accessibility. And it's a game changer for people who actually work in this building, myself included. I can tell you that on the modern elevator. We have the implementation of the county's regional emergency management and training program, and David Clark, our CEMC, will speak to that when you get to his budget. And we will be making a move. It's going to be a learning year for the organization in terms of reviewing what we can in our processes, and you're going to see a lot of policy development this year. We're going to see where we can apply technology more, and of course, improve our customer service. And modernization projects will move along to help that. And it's a small budget, so the changes are the full-time person for corporate communications. That would be Sarah Franklin. And then there's a small ad for the CCDI membership, and that's going to help us support developing our program for diversity, inclusion, and anti-racism as we follow our charter. And so in terms of the CAO office, it's about leading the organization to continue the service delivery projects across the corporation in our 5 key goals. And that's a summary. Thank you.
Perfect. Questions for Lori on the CAO department budget? Councillor McDermott.
Just a quick question. In the budget, it looked like that Sarah was going back to economic development in 2023. Whereas there not going to be somebody then specifically doing communications?
Lori?
So thank you through the board. That's a great question. So council did approve Sarah's position to become full-time. She was economic development officer / corporate communications. But we have demonstrated obviously a need for corporate communications on a full-time basis, but that will have to come back to council as a budget item in 2023. We only have approval from council for a full-time position in that budget for this year. But we will have to come back and have that discussion and see where council wants to go with that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Councilor Kassenberg? Yeah, I think your hand's up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. Just a quick question. I see sort of money coming in for modernization projected for 2022, and certainly understand and grateful for that. How are we showing the expenses for those modernization projects? Is it all project-based and capital, or is any of it captured in this expense budget?
Through the warden, and I'll let Corey answer that one, because some are just for consultants and there's no other costs, and some are actual implementation, but I'll pass it on to Corey for that.
Thank you. Through the warden, great question, Councillor Kassenberg. This pot of money is from the 2019 modernization money that we received back in 2019, and it relates to assistance in potential resources where it could benefit the organization. As you saw a report from Sarah Franklin in relation to the communication initiatives that she has done in 2021, and it will be continuing on into 2022. We've actually split it between not just the modernization money, but we figured that COVID has created communication increases, and we've actually allotted some COVID dollars to that position as well. As Lori indicated, that it is temporary in nature, and this is the reason of utilizing the modernization component of the reserve, as well as the COVID component of the reserve, to cover the cost of that role.
Right. And through the warden, just to add to that, thank you, Corey. The COVID use of that, or the use of those COVID funds, was previously approved by council earlier in 2021.
Councilor Kassenberg?
I just want to make sure I'm clear, though, that with regards to the expenses, with money going out towards modernization, is it just purely staff expenses, or are there some hard costs associated with routine operations in the modernization realm?
Through the warden, great question, Councillor. It is strictly just on the relation of the salaries and benefits of that role, not necessarily any additional expenses required to provide communication component to this organization.
Okie dokie. Other questions? Don't see any hands going up. We're going to move on to HR. So we have Marion doing that, or
Yep.
Jess?
Marion.
Morning, Marion.
Good morning.
Well, we're ready for the HR budget, so take her away.
Sure. The share screen option. Oh, here it just showed up. Perfect. All right. So thank you. Thank you and good morning, everyone. Through the warden, I'm pleased to provide this overview of the 2022 HR budget. Obviously, despite some challenges with COVID, which we're now getting fairly familiar with, HR has worked diligently to accomplish its goals, as well as support the other business operations to achieve their goals as outlined in the strategic plan. Some of our highlights that I've put here is that the hiring of 32 union and non-union staff. We launched several new policies and programs, again, some that are listed here, and then as well continue to focus on health and safety as a priority. And along the way, we're really focused in terms of making sure that we do have a safety culture, one that's always in tune to making sure that the workplace is as safe as possible, because that promotes other factors in the workplace, such as engagement and as well employee support and recognition. So in terms of other employee programs that we did launch was an employee recognition program. We conducted multiple, because of COVID, inspections throughout the county on a regular basis to make sure that our processes and practices were safe, not just for our citizens as they entered the buildings, but as well as our staff who were serving them. So as we move forward into 2022, again, COVID will be a challenge, but at the end of the day, we've learned how to adapt and modify. As you will see in our budget, training is going to be a huge focus this year as we enter 2022. And that's a bit to make up for a bit of some of the delays that we had in 2020 and 2021. And as we expect the ability to do more face-to-face this year as well. We do have negotiations with our QP local that will start most likely in March. And then we also are looking again, as I've mentioned, a greater focus on training and training delivery. As you can see in your binders with regards to the HR budget, we are anticipating an 8% decrease in the HR budget. This is due to HR consulting services that are offsetting the divisional costs. You will see that we did have in 2021 significant savings in our legal budget. Again, we're just going to carry those over again into 2022. This is a negotiation year, and we may be leaning on them more than perhaps we did in the last 2 years. 2021, we also see a carryover of our professional development funds once again, but this year we do have some increases and plans to use these funds. Probably some of the biggest expenses that we're forecasting is $18,000 addition to both consulting and professional development, and that is for training in emergency management. David will speak more to this in his emergency management presentation as well, but it is going to focus on increasing the competencies of all staff to deal with emergencies, and as well includes a council component. We also have plans for individual leadership training and coaching, and again, a large focus on a customer experience, customer excellence approach. And we're hoping to develop these in-house and put them on through our online learning platform here at the county. Before I move on, are there any questions?
Questions for Marion? Not hearing any. Carry on.
Perfect. So just to conclude, our 2022 focus for HR is supporting customer service excellence, focusing on making sure that we are achieving the goals as outlined in the strategic plan, and then as well focusing on employee development, and that includes corporate health and wellness, updating our policies and practices to make sure that they are aligned and support staff success. So thank you, Council, for listening to the HR budget.
Okay, we can stop the screen share. Perfect. Now that I can see faces, any questions or comments with regards to that budget? Don't see any. That's perfect. We're going to move on. Thanks, Marion.
Perfect. Thank you.
And we'll move on to ECDEV and tourism. And we'll have to get Meredith up there?
There it is, should be coming in. Yep, there she is.
Good morning, County Council. Can everyone hear me okay and see my screen?
To see your screen, thanks, Meredith.
Perfect. And it's my PowerPoint?
Yep.
Awesome. Wonderful. Excellent. Good morning, County Council and Warden Aitchison. Thank you for having me here today and listening to our economic development and tourism budget. So the role of economic development and tourism and transportation is to facilitate and implement regional economic development, tourism, and transit strategies as a means of promoting the county as an attractive business location and place to live and visit. We achieve this by engaging and working with our member municipalities, businesses, business organizations, community organizations, provincial and federal government partners, and investors. Activities include initiatives aimed at retaining existing businesses and creating a business environment that will enable local businesses to expand and prosper. These activities include business retention and expansion, investment attraction, workforce development, tourism initiatives such as destination development, experiential tourism initiatives, farm gate programming help strengthen the local economy and elevate the regional tourism profile with the goal to increase visitor spending and lengthen visitors' overnight stays. The PC Connect transportation service includes overseeing the day-to-day operations, providing education and customer support, creatively promoting and building ridership, and implementing service enhancements. The PC Connect transit program connects residents to points of interest throughout the county and surrounding areas. The service is contributing to both the economic and tourism success by offering affordable, accessible transportation throughout the county to both residents and visitors. Our achievements in 2021, we advertised Perth County in 12 national publications. We distributed over 50,000 tourism brochures locally and at points of interest. We completed an expansion of the Discover More Flavor Farm Gate map. This included a redesign of our digital map, revamped printed maps, and distributed 35,000 copies across Perth County and neighboring communities. We developed 4 itineraries with the Culinary Tourism Alliance's Great Taste of Ontario road trip, hosted 16 media influencers, developed a Perth County cycle map and webpage, provided professional photography services to 43 businesses and 4 business associations to assist with digital website and e-commerce needs. We developed and executed a Discover More Adventures experiential tourism project. We held 3 experiential tourism workshops with 29 local businesses, developed 8 signature experiences across Perth County, led the development of Perth County's Diversity, Equity, and Anti-Racism Charter, delivered the Perth County Housing Our Future Workforce Forum, completed a triage business retention and expansion survey with 160 businesses, delivered 100 reopening kits after the second provincial lockdown, launched a digital service squad, providing digital support to 150 businesses, completed 90 plus virtual business investment meetings with the Southern Ontario Marketing Alliance, Ontario Food Cluster, and the Ontario Manufacturing Community Alliance. We offered intercultural competency training to businesses across Perth County. We hosted a virtual mentor meetup with 5 local mentors, sharing their stories of why they made Perth County home. We distributed 400 co-op kits to the Avon-Maitland District School Board and the Huron-Perth Catholic District School Board, highlighting businesses along the PC Connect route as potential co-op locations. We distributed 200 Perth County community care packages to local businesses and business associations. We provided 4,268 rides on the Perth County Connect, and we distributed over 10,000 Perth County Connect route brochures to residents, businesses, and organizations across the county. And we secured a 2-year project extension with additional funding for PC Connect transportation program and wrote and submitted 13 funding applications. So challenges and opportunities, our top 3 challenges that our businesses identified through our business retention and expansion survey were lack of attainable housing for employees, lack of skilled workers, and lack of unskilled workers. Opportunities to address these issues are to follow up on our housing challenges from the triage business retention and expansion, host a YIMBY session for community stakeholders leading up to the community engagement sessions for the official plan review, continue to use the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus to advocate for attainable housing in rural Ontario, and work at improving our network and relationship with community partners on joint projects promoting available opportunities, promoting youth, retention, and attraction. Travel hesitancy is a concern for our tourism businesses. There is an opportunity as domestic travel has increased and a strong focus on experiential tourism. As we continue to grow our agritourism, experiential tourism portfolio and continue to promote hyper-local program, we will promote Perth County as a safe and safe and desirable tourism destination. Some of our challenges with transportation is the inability to widely promote our local transit service due to COVID-19. It's really put a damper on the programming of our transit coordinator. As restrictions are lifted and we start to resume our new normal, we're going to continue to promote PC Connect as a safe method of transportation with a targeted strategy directed at local employers, residents, and community groups. Our 22 operating budget is very similar to 2021. We're going to continue to maintain the same level of service and deliver business support programming, such as the implementation of the recommendations from the Triage Business Retention Expansion Survey. We're going to follow up on workforce, housing, and transportation challenges, tourism brochure development and distribution. We're going to work on joint projects with education and training partners to promote career opportunities and support residents' retention and attraction. We're going to expand our experiential tourism program. Growing our Discover More Adventures will increase program support as an opportunity to support more businesses and enhance existing tourism assets. We're currently investigating the viability of a Perth County Farms to Stratford Tables storytelling program with Stratford Tourism. We're going to expand our Discover More Flavor Farm Gate program as more operators join the program. We're going to continue to offer our snapshot programming, our welcoming communities training for businesses across Perth County. We're going to continue to grow our PC Connect ridership through marketing and working with local community groups and service providers. New projects for 2022. This one is contingent of funding. We're going to develop a countywide cycle strategy. It's been identified that Perth County is a desirable area for cyclists. The development of a cycle strategy will guide staff and community partners in cycle tourism development. The cycle tourism market provides an opportunity for safe outdoor tourism activities within the county. The 22 business plan proposed a countywide community improvement plan. The countywide CIP would enable the county to offer initiatives to encourage certain types of development, including affordable and attainable housing. Similar CIP programs are in Elgin, Grey, and Bruce, and other neighboring counties that have demonstrated the return on investment for this program. And the CIP model can be tailored to meet the unique needs of Perth County. This project, although identified in my business plan, has not been included in my budget as we were unsuccessful for funding. So Perth County Economic Development and Tourism and our transit program, we fall under all 5 strategic priorities of the county through our farm gate map, our transit service, our programming and economic development, and our customer service excellence. So I am happy to take any questions from you today.
Okay, you can stop the screen share so I can actually see something.
Okay, I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that. There we go.
Perfect. Okay, questions for Meredith on the active, Councillor Kazenberg.
Well, of course, my favorite drum to beat is the housing drum, and affordability of housing is continuing to be a significant concern in our county. I understand that our pitch didn't receive the kind of support that we wanted, but at the same time, I think the Committee on Affordable Housing that the county has struck has suggested there are some actions that might be taken that do require some resources. And I'm just querying whether you have had the opportunity to sort of pore over the work plan of that committee, identify where there may be financial implications, and whether those should be county sponsored.
Meredith?
So through you, Warden, I'm going to pass this over to Lori, our CAO. As she's kind of been stick handling our Attainable Housing Committee.
So thank you on that. Through Councillor Kazenberg, I'll be honest with you, I haven't had the chance this week to go through and revisit the work plan of the committee. I know there are some things in my earlier recollection of items that they would be able to work on, but wanting to see in terms of economic development. And I know there was an update given about the United Way and what they were doing in North Perth. And I am sorry, I just don't know the details of that. So I can bring a report to you in terms of what I think we could do. I could bring that to the next budget meeting. Be happy to do that.
Okay. Councillor Hurlick.
No, it's quite interesting. I mean, the housing thing is concerning for us all. I believe it is now in Ontario, 30% increase. I mean, we want to beat this drum, But let's face it, let's look at how much money's been printed in North America alone in the last 2 years. $4 trillion, we don't know. And that gets lobbied off and it keeps coming and getting us. Just yesterday, oh no, we're not putting up interest. This isn't going to get better. What are we going to do? You're coming after me. We know the downloads are coming from health units. I don't know. Like, I respectfully, trust me, there is nobody who cares about humanity more than me. I can assure that. But I'm not going to get in the business of taking it from Peter to pay Paul when Peter's already broke. Man, like, what do we do? Put the interest up and stop printing money, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Corey?
Through you, Warden, I just want to make a suggestion. If we get through the operational budget, I would suggest that we have this discussion at the end of the, basically through all the other operational budgets, to have that discussion with council. Just not to, not to potentially delay it to the next meeting. That's all I'm trying to get at.
No, I mentioned before we started, I wanted to do those things at the end, but that's fine. It was a quick bring up, so not the end of the world. ACDEB basic budget that's presented. Any more questions on that? Not seeing any hands go up, so we'll move on to the other, and we'll maybe readdress that other at the end if we have time. Hopefully we do. If not, we've sort of discussed it. Planning.
Okay, good morning. I have my slides up there. I just want to get my video going as well. There we go. Okay, can everybody see my slide?
Yep, we're good, Sally.
Great. Okay, so here's the 2022 planning division budget. Man, I'm having trouble getting my slide to advance. Here we go. Okay. So in 2021, we had pretty massive change in the planning department. And the obvious one is the implementation of the single tier service model that was initiated on March the 1st. And you all have a good handle on what work went into that. One of the goals for the year was to establish a team here of people who could fulfill that that service. And we have, I'm really proud to say, quite a great team here. And they've been, that's been built up over the year. And that in itself is an achievement. Not only getting those folks and attracting them to employment in Perth County, but also just the quality and the collaboration that they have on board. We've also been working pretty hard on improvements around practice and procedure around here. And we have some, tangible things that we're just about ready to launch, like the procedure manual. But I think in practice, the relationship building with the folks in the lower tiers that we do work with on a daily basis, and also sort of streamlining things and working together on that has been a big achievement of the year. One of the things that has come along with this new team and the culture that we share is the solutions-oriented approach to planning in the community. And of course, work on the official plan throughout the year in 2021 as well. So 2021 was just, it was really quite a massive year for this department. And there's an intensity there that that exists, and we were able to be successful over the year because of specific decisions that council made and the support there, because of the team, the dedication and the skill that they bring, and also because of staff members across this organization supporting the growth of our team and the work that they do. So 2022 opportunities and challenges. I have these both in one list, and that's because we have a lot of opportunities for planning this coming year. And I would say that there are challenges embedded in each of them. And I think 2022 is shaping up to be an intensive year, just like 2021 was. The number one opportunity or priority, I should say, is the official plan, and to continue momentum on that and bring through a draft and a consultation for that project. The other things that we have going on that present incredible opportunity is the feedback loop that we're having on our service model. We're in the middle of that right now, and that constant feedback loop is critical to continued improvement. We'd like to see continued improvement continue in our efforts on the change around process and procedure. And also, I think this year, in part because of the official plan and the natural heritage piece, is that we have an opportunity to do some pretty in-depth public consultation. And the tools available to us now are very engaging and kind of exciting, actually, as a practitioner. And I think bringing those to the public is going to be an opportunity that we try to make the most of and really enjoy throughout the year. And I think one of the opportunities potentially, but truly a challenge, is the capacity. So with the intensity that we operate under, it's, generally speaking, do we have the contingency that we need to deal with setbacks or turnover or what have you, or just an increase in the volume over what we have now that the market seems to continue to put on us. And so generally and specifically, are there contingencies in place? And I think conversation around that and identifying those opportunities is another one that should be on the table this year. So let's get into some of the specifics about the budget. Our general operating budget is pretty unchanged from 2021. We want to stay the course with respect to staffing and our notice procedures and the professional development and the things that sort of generally take up funds in the planning budget. And also this year, there's an introduction of 3 expenses that are temporary in nature, but do amount to an expense of 40% over last year's budget. One of those is the contract planner for the official plan. So there's a 1-year contracted salary position there. And then $100,000 is related to the ecologist expertise on a retainer basis for mapping, resolution around mapping and that's the item that I was talking about earlier that's within the strategy for consultation around natural environment. And I've tried to estimate with consultation through different ecology firms, what does that cost? What do we get for that money? How many visits could we do? And I've tried to estimate the need. It's important to note that this is not money that is for sure spent if approved. It's a kitty essentially to draw from when resolutions are required. And I've done my best here, I think, to estimate sort of the top end of that. And then something that keeps coming on my radar regularly and seems to have alignment with not only our strategic plan as a corporation, but also with the other sort of projects unfolding around us and the communities that we neighbor, is that one of the things that seems to be missing sometimes when I talk to folks around is a stewardship program in Perth County for recognition of landowners who are incurring expense to implement things that do improve sort of the greater environment, and that is a service to all. So I would like, and I've proposed here some money to develop that program. We have staff on board at the present who are experienced in this area and have a wide network to draw from in order to build something here that might be of interest to council. And I'd like some resources to explore that on your behalf. So those temporary expenses collectively represent about $284,000 over the normal operating budget that we have. And how does planning intersect with the strategic priorities of the corporation? Well, certainly in all 5 areas, there are things that happen here on a sort of a day-to-day basis with the application review, but also with long-term policy development and the improvements around process that you could put in all 5 categories. I just wanted to highlight a few of them here because they're so clearly aligned with community growth and development, and that's the new official plan. File tracking opportunities and process improvement and contingency for capacity of the department. Those are all based, I think, in regional service efficiency. And the performance monitoring loop is a mechanism for continued improvement on customer service. So those are the 3 that I wanted to highlight for council today with respect to how the department aligns with the overall corporate strategy. And that's the end of my slideshow for you this morning on the planning budget.
Okay, questions for Sally on her budget? Councillor Wright.
Sally, the clean water program that you're talking about, the Upper Thames does it, the Grand River does it, everybody else does it too. Now, Upper Thames, if Walter can correct me, they dropped that program, right? Because there was not much uptake in that. It's about burns and that. Walter will pay $5 for not turning his mic on.
No, I couldn't get it to come on. That was my problem. I kept hitting it and it wouldn't come on. I'm not 100% sure about that, Doug. I know in Huron County, and Sally can probably testify to this more than I can, but they certainly do have a program, county oriented program where there's funding available. The county puts money in, and so does conservation authorities. And we run into it a little bit in West Perth when we're close to the boundary that somebody, for example, in the Tuckerswith ward can do a program and get some assistance or funding for it, and in on our side in the West Perth it's not available. But I think there's still some programs available, Doug, as far as I know.
Thank you, Walter. So Sally, you're the $100,000 looking forward to 2 more years after this budget. That's what you have that 101.5 in there for?
Yeah.
You have to look at it as a 3-year budget. So, okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to, you're going from 25 to 100.
25.
What you're proposing.
Yeah, 25 is essentially like a project development expense. And because if we want to build something here, we want to do a great job of it. We don't just want to, you know, copy and repeat. We want to make sure that there's some tailoring to the community here, and that, you know, if there's other, I think the wonderful point that's being raised is that we don't have a good handle necessarily on what's available in Perth County, and it's maybe time that we did. And so I'd like to be informed about that stuff. I think council would like to be informed about that stuff. So, but I wanted to, look forward and see, okay, well, if we invest in this, what does that probably look like as an expense in the future? So that's why I put that earmark in there in those future years.
Other questions? Councillor Wilhelm, I think that is.
Yes, thank you. I have to admit, I don't like to see a 40% increase, but I do believe that it's imperative that we get these official plan and other projects completed this year. And without spending the money, it won't get done. So I will support this, and hopefully we will see a good response, and that the residents get their questions answered, especially on natural heritage.
Other comments or questions? Corey, you got a point?
Yeah, through Warden, just in education, it's through to Councillor Wilhelm. It is a 40% increase, but due to some of these temporary nature items that we do see, this is the one of the benefits or the reasons why we have reserves to kind of do those items and not necessarily levy the taxpayer, because we've already levied the money in the reserves from the taxpayer. And to get some of these things done, because it has a kind of, a lot of times one-time cost to get going. This is one of the major benefits to utilizing reserves.
Other comments or questions? Just back to the comment Councillor Ike made. I haven't done one for a while, and perhaps maybe you or Walter or even Doug might know. Environmental farm plans. Is there money still available through those for these types of projects? Anybody know?
It's been 15 years for you, respectfully, Warden. I don't know.
Okay, I just wondered. Okay, no other questions. We're gonna move on. You also notice in the planning department, your revenues are increased 40%. And next year, you actually, in 2023, have a 14.3% drop in the cost of the planning department. So anyway, we're gonna move on. Emergency management. He doesn't take an hour. 10 minutes. He likes to talk.
Good morning, Warden. Can everybody see and hear me?
I can hear you and I can see your screen slideshow, but I can't see you, but that's fine.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to be here this morning. Members of council, good morning. And through the Warden, I'd like to present the emergency management program budget for this year and forecast going forward. So if everybody see that screen okay? Is that coming up, Warden?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So with the emergency management program, goals sort of overarching is to build a solid base across the county, to take where we are now and ensure that everybody is on the same level playing field as we approach emergency management from an interoperable and county-wide approach going forward. And we want to make sure that everybody has the same opportunities and accessibility to the training and the programs available through that. And in dealing with all the lower tiers in the county and town of St. Mary's this year, capture the positive energy that we have within those people in relation to emergency management and the level of engagement, and enhance their skill sets and build a strong emergency management team. And we want to do that over 3 to 5 years. And as a result of incorporating the program, build their confidence and at the same time, the competence of the individuals who are on those teams. So some of our major accomplishments during 2021, we did across the entire county satisfy and or exceed all the regulatory compliance items set out by the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act that was submitted to the OFM EM in December. Our exercises, training, our plans, and the hazard identification risk assessment reviews, program committee meetings, public education qualifications, all satisfied the requirements and in many cases exceeded. And second, we also had, as we still are in the pandemic and going forward, the support with HPPH of the vaccination clinics. We were the lead in the county in relation to that, coordinating volunteer coordinators in conjunction with Stratford. And as of January 11th, when we put the program together here for this morning, we had conducted in Perth County alone over 154 mass vaccination clinics with 101,987 jabs in the arms of folks in the county. We also had the opportunity to engage with the Critical Infrastructure Engineering and Innovation Program through the University of Toronto to look at risk and resiliencies in the county. This was a no-cost item for us, but allowed a fresh lens of some of these up-and-coming students in their 4th year of university. And they tackled a couple of different potential not problems, but risks in the community and hydrosemonia in both the agricultural and food industry, plus also in our arenas, recreational facilities, and our county courthouse, looking at flows and process versus actual physical changes to the courthouse itself. We also looked at our emergency response plans this year, and we are in the process of updating those as well as our hazard identification risk assessment process, which to date and across the board throughout Canada and other places is very opinion and subjective based when you formulate what those risks are. So we are moving the program forward with a researcher and are going to present to OFMEM on completion the impact of climate change and a more science and data based way to conduct that and look at our risks within the county. We want to update our plans so that they are interoperable across the entire county, so everybody's on the same page. We don't have 6 different plans. We have one main plan with some annexes for each one of the communities involved. We want them to be easy to use when you're in an emergency, know where to look for things. And as we've seen in the pandemic, the pivot we've had to do in the utilization of technology where we can't always get together, we want to capture that and continue forward that positive vibe with that. As a result of doing the exercises, we completed 6 across the county with a total of 105 participants, and that included both internal and external stakeholders. So within each one of the municipalities, plus external stakeholders such as the provincial police, Stratford Police, the health unit, and the hospital association. The purpose of them was to look at our ability to assess emergencies, how to use our plans, our notification process to stand up our EOCs, and get resources to manage incidents. And as a result, on the plus side of things, we had excellent collaboration across the board in each one of the exercises, strong knowledge exhibited by all the participants in their area of expertise, and also some fantastic pre-existing and new stakeholder relations that were built as a result of that. We did also identify areas where we can improve, such as our plan structure, as we talked about before, making it easy to use, interoperable, accessibility in a digital format, updating our contact lists, our activation procedures, and creating some good positive workflows that are easy to use as far as documentation and building a framework to go forward and better use again of technology. So how do we get there? We want to use the data as we have in the, I've created a after action report improvement plan for the exercises. Use the data that comes out of that to drive it rather than being opinion based, and establish an input mechanism from everybody. We put that out to folks for input back, capture that, and then have a 3-year mapped out training and exercise framework where we look at what we're going to do in each one of the next 3 years, how we can capture that data where it says we need to improve here, or we can adjust here, or refresh, and move that into a distinct process. And also look at it when we're doing training, make sure the training's accredited and make sure it's Canadian and local based. And our ICS provider, Incident Command System training provider that we selected, has all of those things. And when we do the training on the Incident Command System, it will be Perth County based, and it will be utilizing local examples. The EOCs we looked at, and we have to upgrade our EOCs as the function and format of those EOCs, and even utilizing the virtual concept that we did this year due to the pandemic. That may be the case in an actual emergency where the EOC has been compromised or we can't utilize it. And then again, going back to technology, what can we do better? How can we capture what's out there? And modernization, updating our processes. And we've just attained a modernization grant this year where we can select a consultant that will help us to select possibly technology and software that increases our common operating picture and our situational awareness in major emergencies. So I've mapped out as well 2022, 2023, 2024 compliance and training initiatives. The benefit to this is that it allows people to schedule for things and also for budget. There will be no major changes to the EM budget this year as far as from last year, any major variances, the FTEs. There will be some minor impacts in some training costs that may be associated to the different courses that we will be putting on, but we also want to capture our local knowledge and expertise as well in that. Other than that, that is the program going forward, and I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Do you want to just stop the screen share? Then I can see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Questions for David on his budget? Councillor McDermott.
Just why the sudden interest in ammonia?
Excellent question, Councillor, through the warden. We just picked things that could impact the county in itself. And one of the major risks with anhydrous ammonia is when it's stored in a significant quantity, and as a former hazmat officer, if it gets out of the container, what do we do? What sort of things are we capable of doing within the community? Even notification that something's got out. So it wasn't that we were looking to pick on a particular industry or anything. It was just an identifiable risk, and it was a good project for them to look at. And if you look back at the recreation facilities in Fernie, BC, I believe it was 4 years ago, or maybe even 5 years ago now, they had an incident with the ammonia chiller for their ice rink that resulted in 3 fatalities. So it is something that's used in almost every arena. Some have upgraded to go to other different systems. And it was just an opportunity to look at the associated risks, and is there something that maybe we can do different or better to lessen those risks?
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Not seeing any. Thanks, David. We're good to go. We're going to move on.
Thank you, Warden.
So next we're moving on to legislative services.
Perfect.
Who's doing that?
So with the slides to show up here for everybody. Excellent. So through the warden and council, we're going to move into the 2022 budget presentation for legislative services. With that being said, we have the 2021 accomplishments. I'm going to break this down by different programs. So first, we have council legislative services. We reviewed and renewed the commissioning program. This was completed early on in 2021 and has provided the community with a structured additional option for service. We also created program documents for programs within legislative services, including commissioning, forestry, and accessibility. We included program documents into those programs, as well as newly created standard operating procedures. With respect to forestry, we updated the forestry bylaw as well as the program to complete the transfer of service from the planning department to legislative services. We held the forestry bylaw information session for logging contractors and other stakeholders. That was held on December 10th, 2021. And the information session was organized actually by the Deputy Clerk, Sean McCoy. And the content from that session is also provided on our dedicated forestry website, which was actually mentioned previously in today's meeting with respect to the gypsy mob. We have records management, which we began digitizing active and inactive agreements. We scanned all 2012 to 2018 bylaws into FileHold, 2018 to current or currently stored digitally as well. Now, when we proceed with this program this year, this project, we're going to have a transparent portal for easy searching for the public to view the repository. We also created a records management policy, as council is aware of last year. With respect to accessibility, we created a standardized checklist for the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee subcommittees for reviewing site plans. This was a process that is now super efficient, saves a lot of time with respect to the site plan process for planning. And I believe the planners all enjoyed it as well. And I'd like to thank Rachel Cannon for creating this document. Rachel is our legislative services assistant. We managed the administration of the New Horizons Grant Fund in relation to accessibility program and engaged the JAC, the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, in the event planning. We worked in collaboration actually with the Alzheimer's Society and a consultant to provide valuable information to our community and business owners. Now, looking at this current year, 2022, the opportunities and challenges. So with respect to opportunities, we look at digital records. So a significant component of the department's 2022 work plan is focused on records management processes and how we can move ourselves from more of a paper municipality into a digital municipality. Customer service, we're reviewing and renewing the Perth County grant program to ensure it is a streamlined process for the public's use. So we'll have more information, hopefully, with respect to that program around Q2 this year. And then accessibility. So we're looking at the creation of the 2023-2027 multi-year accessibility plan, the utilization of the new community engagement framework that was put out by Sarah Franklin, the communications officer, in 2021. So we're going to really be utilizing that document for the majority of our programs. With respect to challenges, we're looking at the shifting of internal and external customer service needs and the uncertain legislative landscape due to COVID-19 and always pivoting as necessary. 2022, we're also presented with the challenge of the municipal election and the potential for lame duck. So the municipal election will potentially impact timelines and the decision-making process, not just for legislative services, but throughout the whole corporation. Now to just hone in on a couple of key aspects of our operating budget, the Accessibility Advisory Committee, we've put in for a $2,000 increase for a one-time expenditure for the JAC accessible bench to be installed at the Stratford Perth Archives. As you would remember from the capital presentation, Director of Public Works, John McClellan, mentioned the drain work that's being undertaken at that facility during the capital budget presentation. And we're going to work with them as well as archives on this project. The special projects line, maintaining the $2,000 for records management as we continue to shift to digitizing records. Records management grant opportunity may assist with additional program expenses. With respect to that, we did hear back with in terms of the grant, and we were successful with that just recently. So that's great news for legislative services as well as the county of Perth as a whole. Highlighting some of our strategic priorities, strategic plan priority goal number 2, the regionalization and service effectiveness. The shift to records management, the digitization, as well as just cleaning up any of our working documents and physical papers is going to be a great movement for records management with the county of Perth. They'll include a central repository with event reminders to ensure that we're staying on top of any kind of contract management, as well as a public-facing portal, and with that is increased searchability for staff as well as the public. The 2023 and 2027 multi-year accessibility plan, this is going to be done in collaboration with the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee and our lower tier municipality partners. Strategic plan priority goal number 3, customer service excellence. We're going to review the grant program as previously mentioned, with a strong focus on increasing public engagement opportunities throughout that, as well as provide regular reporting on those activities to County Council. We're expanding customer service initiatives with the creation of our standard operating procedures and creating program documents highlighting all necessary information, forms as they get updated and become more accessible, SOPs, providing different context and nuances to those program documents so that we have efficiency throughout our department. We're going to implement the file hold access for the public, which again promotes the transparency and accessibility of our corporate records program. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them now. And if not, I do believe I hand it over to Corey.
Okay, well, before we go to Corey, we'll just, any questions for Tyler on his presentation? Councilor Kasenberg.
Thank you very much, Tyler. Just a quick question about the records management issue and making public availability to the records. Often the tools that are available that are sort of optimized, if you will, for staff in their record management duties don't tend to translate all that well to public access. They can be onerous, cumbersome, use of Boolean operators, you name it, right? Just want to make a quick query that it sounded like you indicated that you intend to make some of those tools surfaced on our website or at some other portal for our citizens, and I'm just hoping you'll assure that a public implementation of this is accessible and perhaps may require a little bit of training video or something like that to help people understand how to use the tools.
So through the warden, excellent point. That is something that we are ensuring that we look into. With respect to bylaws minutes, that's going to be an added button through our iCompass portal as it already exists, and it will lead to the repository in FileHold. The documents that are going into FileHold are going through the OCR to ensure that they are searchable documents and are accessible documents, but most certainly that we will be creating both written SOPs as well as a video SOP on how to use the portal that we put out.
Okay, other questions for Tyler? Don't see any. Moving on, Corey.
All right, thank you, Warden Aitchison. Council, what we have in front of you is the Finance Division's budget in relation to 2021 accomplishments. We continue to support the divisions related to financial reporting related to the pandemic, as additional financial reporting has become rampant in relation to funding that we've received from the other levels of government. We had supported planning services in the single tier model with relation to financial impacts that was put into implementation in March of 2021. We continue to manage multiple grant applications, including the municipal modernization for the review and implementation streams. And we're continuing to collaborate with member municipalities and direct negotiate on extensions with our existing auditors. We have completed a review of the financial performance and service parameters of the MPAC, but it's not done yet. We are continuing to work with MPAC, not just this year, but ongoing, as everybody's aware of the provincial mandate of the review of the assessment at the provincial level. What's within our 2022 budget related to opportunities and challenges. Again, you saw it last year. It's again continued citizen education in relation to a two-tiered municipal government, municipal governance overall to our citizens in Perth County. It's to support the asset management plan of the county and inclusion of the additional requirement that was delayed in 2021 of OREG 588 relation to service levels of our asset management plan. We're continuing to develop financial policies to assist council and staff in relation to changing the political and regulatory environment and ensure the framework is in place for the future staff that to maintain transparency and accountability. Again, working with our partners and member municipalities to identify common objectives and innovative strategies for long-term sustainability. Within the numbers you have in front of you, the 2022 budget has a 6.2% increase in expenses, highlighted mostly in salaries and benefits. And again, it related to the 21 salary market review that was approved in council in the first or second quarter of 2021. The other items that you have within their budget, I base it on 5-year averages as described within the detailed 3-year operating budget. There's no other major program delivery adjustments within 2022. As we align with our strategic priorities, it's to continue to respond to additional requirements brought on by the pandemic, additional requests for support to assist divisions through the pandemic. We also look at final decisions on the courthouse campus and a financing solution to that endeavor. And we'll also continue to educate on a two-tier structure and overall municipal governance. Is there any questions related to finance?
Okay, thanks, Corey. Questions for Corey on finance? Don't see any hands going up. Just a quick note for some of the councilors that I know they're really interested. We did have a delegation with the finance department on Monday. Discuss the impact, because Corey brought that up, and up funding and different things, and we'll see where it goes. Okay, moving on. Technology services. Thanks, Corey. That's Steve.
Yeah.
Morning, Steve.
Morning, Warden. I'll just start my screen share here. Can everybody see my presentation?
Looks good.
Perfect. So, good morning, Warden and members of council. In 2021, as we entered the second year of the pandemic, technology services continued to provide services in a new hybrid environment where the business impacts of COVID were still being felt, just to a lesser extent. So some of the division's notable accomplishments in 2021 included fire dispatch services transition. So we worked with the fire chiefs and our third-party support provider to transition the fire dispatch service to a new provider, Owen Sound Police Services. This project required substantial staff effort and involved completing an RFP process, agreement negotiations, and coordination of multiple groups required to set up the new dispatch services. The new service provider is already compliant with the upcoming next generation 911 requirements and provides a more robust technical solution and completely redundant dispatch facilities. Cybersecurity initiatives. In conjunction with new cyber insurance requirements, we implemented several new initiatives to improve our current cybersecurity standard. These included upgrading our main network security equipment, implementing multi-factor authentication for staff remote connections, and introducing a cybersecurity awareness training course requirement for all county staff. POA Zoom Court. In 2021, POA Court was transitioned from a conference call only setup to a full online video court option, including hybrid options for justices. This new setup positioned the organization to easily transition to a full hybrid model, allowing participants to choose their method of participation, online or in person, when the pandemic circumstances allowed for. Swoop 2020. GIS staff completed work to prepare and publish the latest version of Swoop high-resolution aerial imagery used in a variety of work we do at Perth County and the member municipalities, from emergency management to planning to infrastructure and asset management. GIS meetings and AMA sessions. So we also held our first GIS user group meeting in 2021. Attendees included staff from the county, the member municipalities, and the town of St. Mary's. The intent of this group is to discuss topics such as upcoming GIS projects, how everyone is using the GIS system, as well as providing an opportunity to share ideas and feedback while possibly learning a little bit more about the GIS service. From the inaugural meeting, we also developed the idea of the new Ask Me Anything sessions led by our GIS coordinator. In these sessions, the coordinator sits down with small groups of member municipal staff to discuss GIS system tips, how-tos, and to answer any GIS questions they might have. So now as we move forward into 2022 and the pandemic extends into a third year, there are several opportunities and challenges facing the division. The growth of remote work and online meeting technologies provide us the option to be productive just about anywhere and at any time. Through the pandemic, county staff have become more comfortable with and proficient at these technologies, creating new opportunities for the organization when considering future space needs and designs, as well as our hiring requirements. Examples of opportunities include shared workspace designs and hiring of remote workers, which could help reduce overall costs and expand our potential hiring candidate options. In addition to these options, remote work options allow the organization to meet any new work-life balance requirements we identify for our staff. Another opportunity we want to explore is how the organization offers its services moving forward as we live with the pandemic and hopefully as we move out of it in the future. Specifically, we want to explore how we can carry forward some of these technologies to create hybrid systems that will allow users of our services to choose how they get them. either online or in person, or even some combination. Hybrid meetings like POA court, council, and public consultations are just a few areas to consider. With the delivery of the IT and GIS strategic plan expected in late Q1, we anticipate the recommendations and opportunities this plan will provide for the organization. At its core, the plan will identify opportunities to better and further utilize technology and GIS to support business-related functions and achieve efficiencies, as well as develop recommendations that can help refine and improve the services the division currently provides. There are also challenges to come in 2022. The main challenge facing the division is related to the resources available to provide the program. In particular, the rate of technology growth at the county and the impact the pandemic has had on recent plans and workloads has made it difficult for the division to maintain expected service levels with the current staff resource. As the organization continues to move towards a digital-first mindset, we need to be aware of the resources required to maintain and support that mindset and ensure we have adequate staffing levels to ensure our success. So looking at the 2022 operating budget, there are a few areas of note here, including hardware maintenance. The change here reflects the amount budgeted in 2021 to upgrade the entire mobile phone fleet from this account. So although the expense was entered in this account, a transfer from the computer systems reserve offset the actual costs. Our plan is to upgrade the mobile phone fleet every 2 to 3 years, depending on the state of the devices. Network support. As remote work and Zoom meetings have become the norm, we are using more of these technologies each year to deliver our services. The change here reflects the costs associated with our increased use of these remote work technologies and the introduction of new cybersecurity initiatives required to ensure we maintain an effective level of protection for our network. Radio maintenance. Several of the tower sites that are now under new ownership require lease contract renewals in 2022. The change in this line reflects increased rental cost schedules defined by the new ownership company. Salaries and associated expenses. So demand for IT support continues to grow each year as service delivery in all departments becomes more reliant on technology. We've now reached a point where our ability to manage the growth in the organization's technology demands has become a challenge in terms of available staff resources. Technology Services is currently working with Perry Group Consulting to complete an IT and GIS strategic plan for the organization. After completing a full service discovery in phase 1 of the project, the consultants noted that our level of IT staffing was low compared to other municipalities they had worked with previously. Additionally, as part of phase 1, feedback from an internal staff survey was that the IT section of Technology Services was no longer able to keep up with the demand for IT services with its current number of staff. So the table on this slide shows the IT staff to total staff ratios of several comparator municipalities. Of note, we list the county's IT staff at 1.5 because the manager of Technology Services time is actually split between the IT and GIS sections. The graphic below that table shows where the county currently sits compared to the Perry Group's recommended staffing ratio range for municipalities. So as you can see from these figures, the county is currently well below the averages in this regard. Our systems administrator position is the only position actually dedicated 100% to IT with a 40-hour work week. In 2021, that position worked an extra 130 hours to complete additional project work, software updates, and deal with critical break-fix issues, all in an effort to maintain expected service levels. Unfortunately, even with that extra effort, there were still projects and work that could not be completed in 2021 and will be carried forward to be added to the new ever-growing list of IT priorities, projects, and work for 2022. Technology has become such a critical element of the county's operations, even more today during these pandemic times. As the IT requirements of the departments continue to increase, the resources available to support them must also adjust. The growth in IT systems, both internal and online within the last 3 years alone, is an indicator of the need for staffing resources to match the increase in workload. With all of this in mind, and in order to efficiently and effectively support the technology needs of the county, employees, and the organization, the 2022 budget includes the hiring of 1 additional full-time IT position. In 2022, a few of our key strategic priorities include the delivery of the IT and GIS strategic plan. Currently projected for late Q1 delivery, this plan will present the organization with several recommendations and opportunities that will help shape the future direction of the Technology Services Division and both the IT and GIS programs. The expectation is that the plan will provide both a short and long-term roadmap for such things as projects, policies, and processes that will help define how we can deliver our services in a more effective and efficient way for the organization. Infrastructure upgrades. We have several infrastructure upgrade projects on the work plan for 2022. Our current VoIP telephone system requires a full client and server software upgrade in order to benefit from new capabilities and to maintain our third-party support standing. Part of this project will involve training on a new software client for all of our staff. We will be upgrading our current data backup system software to realize a competitive cost savings and build on the stability and redundancy of our current system design. The improvements achieved with the new system will add to our current abilities to react and respond to the ever-present cyber threats. Fire radio infrastructure upgrades and agreement. In 2022, the intent is to complete phase 1 of the main system equipment upgrade started in late 2021, and then begin the planning and design steps of phase 2. The equipment making up the main components of the system has aged to a point where we now need to plan and complete upgrades in order to ensure the continued reliability and stability of the system. In addition, we plan to initiate a detailed review of the current fire radio infrastructure agreement with all parties. The current agreement was signed in 2015, and a substantial amount of time and change has passed that dictates we should review and renew this agreement in order to reflect current situations and responsibilities. And finally, assist in larger corporate projects. Specifically, IT has a large role to play in both the electronic records management system rollout, where we will assist legislative services with the full software rollout, as well as help complete the transition from unstructured digital data to a robust records management system, and the community paramedicine for long-term care program being rolled out by paramedic services, where IT will procure, set up, and deploy a large amount of technology resources required for the program. That concludes an overview of the Technology Services 2022 operating budget. If there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you.
You can just knock the screen share down. Perfect. Questions for Steve? Not seeing any hands go up. We're good to go, Steve. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to provincial offenses. And is Linda doing that or?
Linda. Let's do that.
I'm sure if Linda or not. I'm assuming Linda did. Morning, Linda.
Good morning, Warden. Good morning, Council.
We're ready to go.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah, we can see it good. Thank you.
Perfect. Just skip one. There we go. Here to present the Court Services POA Divisional Budget for 2022 and answer any questions. COVID-19 has certainly been a challenge. Our courts are held virtually on the Zoom platform as directed by the province. While we do have permission for in-person appearances, we're keeping those to a minimum and only schedule in person with the permission from the Regional Senior Justice of the Peace. The prosecutor continues to meet with defendants by telephone. Once a matter is resolved, it's adjourned to a Zoom court date to formalize the amendment and record the plea and register the conviction. The responsibility for convicting Part 1 cases where the defendant fails to call the prosecutor for early resolution meeting or where they fail to respond by choosing an option on their charge has been migrated to the clerk of the court. Responsibility for reviewing and granting extensions of time to pay have also been migrated to the clerk of the court. If the application does not meet criteria to be granted by the clerk, the application is forwarded to the Justice of the Peace for review. This slide gives you our charges filed in 2021, the number of court appearances we had, and our average monthly pending caseload. We did collect over 1.3 million in fine revenue. With help from Steve and Randy, we've been able to provide remote options for defendants to access the courts and to have meetings with the prosecutor. Our 2022 budget includes the addition of a full-time assistant to the prosecutor. We normally have one Zoom court per week with additional court dates when we can obtain them. We schedule between 2 and 3 early resolution meeting dates each week. The prosecutor is occupied speaking to defendants during these dates. At this time, we have a licensed paralegal employed on contract as the prosecution intern. With her help, these dates run smoothly and efficiently as she prepares the files for each of the dates ahead of time so that the prosecutor has time to review the files. The prosecution intern also responds to disclosure requests and schedules prosecution meetings for Part 3 matters. The 2022 budget also allows for some salary overlap as I will retire at the end of April. Danette Lecomte has accepted the position of incoming court services manager, and I'm working with Danette and my staff for the smoothest transition possible. So our goal as always is customer service excellent. We continue scheduling for trials and remote appearances by Zoom. We provide scheduling for early resolution meetings with the prosecutor, and we continue to work with the Minister of Attorney General and Ontario Court of Justice on necessary adaptations due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I would be very happy to answer any questions of council.
Thank you, Linda. Questions for Linda on her budget? Corey, you got a point?
Through the warden, I just have a comment. The emotion that you saw from Linda Becker because of her last budget presentation to council was evident in her presentation. So I'd like to commend Linda for all the work she does for the Perth County until her retirement. And I'd hate to say it, you're going to be missed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Corey, because I was just actually going to bring that up myself.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but you brought it up, and yeah, we do appreciate everything you've done for us, Linda, and wish you really well in your retirement. And I'm sure we'll see you around a little bit for a little bit longer. So
yes,
although we don't actually know, I'll miss seeing you next year or whoever the warden is. No, actually, no, it'll be a new warden by then when we hand out the dinners or whatever. I don't know, unless we have a banquet, but
yeah.
It was actually the first time I ever actually got to meet your staff was when I did that last year and this year.
Right. Right.
Anyway, thank you very much for everything you've done, and we're going to move on.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Okay, thanks. We're going to move on to archives, I believe is next, isn't it? How are we doing for time there?
You got 7 minutes to go.
Okay, we'll get through archives, hopefully. And that would leave us Public Works and paramedic services. We're not going to start Public Works.
Wait a minute.
Oh, there we go. Betty Jo, we're ready for your report.
Okay. Thank you, Warden. Bear with me while I share my screen. Does that look like the first slide in the slide deck to everyone?
Yeah.
Thank you. As I said, good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to present the Archives 2021-2022 budget. I'll start by going over a couple of accomplishments this year. So in 2021, Archive staff accomplished major goals, such as seeking approval for and rolling out a comprehensive disaster prevention and response plan and our new exhibit policy, all while researchers were provided with in-person service by appointment when permitted under public health guidelines and by telephone and email throughout the year. While we did not have in-person exhibits this year, Archives collaborated with other county staff, especially communications and IT, to create the All Word Memorial Project videos and post them on the website, and to install the Perth County History Plus poster exhibit at the courthouse, along with an extended version on the website. Completing our staff realignment from 5 to 4 FTEs, the new Archives technician for cataloging and digitization came on board in June, and she has significantly increased the amount of accessible digitized records available on the website, like the Perth County Family Photos Collection and the Stratford City Directories. She is continuously adding more descriptions of records that aren't digitized for researchers to access remotely before coming in or contacting staff with questions. In 2022, we will continue to be flexible in how service is provided and continue with digitization and cataloging work to serve all researchers, whether they can visit in person or are accessing services virtually. In terms of the operating budget, we're asking for a 2.75% increase, which in dollars translates to just under $20,000. 7,500 of those dollars are slated to come from the Archives General Reserve to cover 2 2022 special projects. One is adding accessible signs for the native plant garden at the north end of the property, and assessing an online version of the Archives management software is the second special project, and it will be the basis for a more comprehensive online catalog. Certainly, the finding aids being added to the website are an excellent start, but they really just show the tip of the iceberg as far as telling potential researchers about resources that may be available for them here. We are also asking for 2 rather than 1 summer student going forward. If approved, they will work in tandem to provide weekend service in the reading room and the gallery over the summer. And when not providing frontline service, they'll spend most of their time digitizing early local newspapers in partnership with the volunteer-run Perth County branch of the Ontario Genealogical Society to make those newspapers available on the website as well. Having students take on this work will allow full-time staff to focus on behind-the-scenes work like supporting records management initiatives at both the city and the county this year, and collections management work at the Archives, like accessioning and cataloging recently donated or transferred records. Archives supports efficient and effective governance by providing timely access to historical records for municipal staff, elected officials, the public, and the media. The Archives supports transparent and accountable government by capturing key evidence of local government decisions and activities and making it available to citizens. So is primarily linked with strategic priorities relating to customer service excellence and corporate sustainability. Thank you for your time, and I would be pleased to try to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Linda. Any questions for Linda on her budget for Archives?
I'll just, in the name of transparency, Warden, I'll just say that it's Betty Jo at the Archives.
Oh gosh, sorry. Sorry. Been sitting here long enough.
For sure.
And I'm actually fogging up. I can even hardly tell some of the counselors' faces on here now. This mask isn't as bad as the other one though for fogging up, I will say that.
Yeah.
Anyway, any questions for Betty Jo? Daryl, Councillor Hurley.
After you were great, Betty Jo, interesting. The digitalization, that's moving pretty well. How are you making out with that? Is there a third-party company helping with that as well?
No, we're doing it in-house. We have the tools and the staffing that we need to be able to do it here so that we don't need to send records off-site, puts them in at a bit of a risk.
Okay, interesting. Because traditionally, like, was it the Mormons involved, I believe, in record keeping, and a lot of stuff was sent south and then come back? Is that true?
I see evidence of that in some microfilm reels that we have here. Some of the municipalities, I believe, were working with the Genealogical Society of Utah. This would be a number of years ago, to get municipal records copied, and can go back to my own experience at the provincial archives. That group would come in and do microfilming on site as well of records to make them available through their family history centers.
Yeah, no, interesting. Yeah, bless those people. It's archives is awesome. It's so important that we keep that in line and available. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Betty Jo. Looks like we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's about 12 o'clock. We're gonna actually stop doing budget for now. And what I'm gonna do is, because we've only got public works and paramedic services, but they're gonna be a little longer than what we've just gone through. So we'll put that on. Now, what have we got for delegations, et cetera, for next meeting?
So through the warden, there are no delegations at this time. We have a light consent agenda, and we have a handful of 5 staff reports.
Okay, well,
relatively
keep the
short.
delegations to a 0. And what we'll do is we will, which is just gonna be next Thursday, actually, we're gonna put the budget towards the beginning of the meeting, so we get it wrapped up. And now, Councillor Kasenberg had mentioned about stuff towards affordable housing. Can staff come up with some information before our next meeting, Lori?
Right, yes, through the warden, thank you. I did actually just pull the work plan to refresh myself on that, so I'm happy to bring something next week. Just to be able to say, there are some things in here that I think we would be able to do in-house because it aligns with some of our other work plan material. But I know when it comes to the activity around the CIP, you know, the CIP will come when we have the OP in place, and then the CIP generally comes. So I can write something up for that to say what we could do, and where if we do have a new FTE, and it depends on the level of the FTE that we're looking for, whether that's administrative, because we did have a really qualified administrative staff who had some background in housing, and but she left for another municipality who presented a higher level of support that I think could have assisted with some of these action items. But I will be happy to bring that next week.
Okay, can we also get some information on what the United Way is doing?
I will.
affordable
I'll
housing?
include through the word. I'll include that.
Because
as
they've
well.
launched a big project with some serious money.
They did.
So,
They did.
okay, we're gonna move on, and we have to go into closed session. And we have a motion that Perth County Council move into closed session at approximately, what's the time, 12? Corey?
I just want to preface the remaining presentations. I did give them a limit of 10 minutes. So just so you're aware, it'll be 20 minutes of presentation and then get into the finalization of the budget. I gave everybody 10 minutes, so just preface that.
Yeah, well, we'll keep that still for next week because there might be something else come up between now and then. I had a meeting with Matt Grossman yesterday.
Right.
Anyway, I kind of over jumped here. Council reports. You can tell I want to get out of here and get this mask off. Bylaws. Nothing. Notice of motions. Other business. Councilor Hurley.
Yeah, no, great there. Just a quick question. I noticed in the media here the other day, Huron County applied for a grant here through their climate change coordinator. It's called a Municipal Climate Resiliency Grant. So I looked it up and poked it around. Seems like an arm of an insurance company or an NGO of some type. We have policy how we apply for grants like that outside of government. I'm quite concerned here as we go forward. Is this what this is going to look like as we enter into this?
We'll have to investigate that.
Yeah, maybe a policy or something.
I'm not sure I can get a definitive answer here right at the moment.
10-4.
Okay, usually most time we're applying for grants, they run them through council first anyway.
Yeah, and they're provincial.
Yeah. Anybody else on other business? Announcements. Seeing any? Okay. Before we go into closed session, did anybody that was registered to Roma get to see much of the delegations? Rhonda saw a bunch. She saw more than I did because I was bouncing around. Once they do, Todd.
We had two from North Perth, but in terms of seeing other ones, no.
Yeah, I was involved in 5 delegations, so I kind of was busy popping around, and believe it or not, I actually had some farm work to get done in there a couple times. Anyway, once they're posted, we'll be able to watch it. That was kind of interesting what the ministers' forum and whatnot all had to say on affordable housing. Because I know they had a big meeting with the big city mayors, but they just seemed to forgot about the rural people again, as usual. Anyway, we'll see where that goes. I know we had some discussions with Randy on that, whatnot, so. Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session at, what's the time now?
12:06.
12:06. In accordance with section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001, as amended, to consider a matter pertaining to litigation/legal advice and a matter pertaining to labor relations. Moved by. Don't everybody raise their hand at once. Councillor Wilhelm, second by Councillor Wright. Those in favor? Perfect. Okay, we got to stop streaming or recording. Okay, it was 12:40. We moved out there, Tyler.
Thank you.
Bylaw 3854-2022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the corporation of the county of Perth. And its regular meeting held January 27th, 2022 is read a first, second, and third time. And finally passed on January 27th, 2022. Now we'll take a mover and a seconder. Councillor Kasenberg, Councillor McDermott. Those in favor? That's carried. And I have a motion that the council meeting adjourn at approximately 12:42. Moved by Councillor Wilhelm, second by Councillor Duncan. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much.